radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. And what a good evening it is. What a beautiful day. Today is... this is Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. 126 days into the new year. Just 240 days left. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California, and I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How are you doing? All right. What a great show last night with Whitley Strieber. Amazing conversation. What a great week we've got here on Fade to Black. Tonight, Jonny Enoch. Jonny Enoch. He joins us tonight to talk about his recent trips to Egypt and the United Kingdom. All right, now, quick programming note. I posted up in Twitter 3 sets of images. I think there's 4 in each, 3 in each, 4 in each, of his trip, and hopefully Johnny can make sense out of it, because I'll just let you know he didn't label the pictures, so now I've got to figure them out. So anyway, I think I got them grouped pretty good. I think I've got Egypt, and the UK, and I figured that part out. So for all of you tonight during the show, if you want to retweet those, and Johnny's going to take a peek at them and tell us what each one means when we get to that part of the conversation. Okay, so they're up there in Twitter, hashtag F2B. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox, and you're going to want to go and follow me on Twitter and get into hashtag F2B so you can check out these images tonight during the broadcast, and that includes everybody that is out there. Just do a split screen, get into Twitter, do your thing wherever you are at. Now, tomorrow night, right here, Nick Redfern joins the show. He's got a new book out, The Rendlesham Forest UFO Conspiracy, and it's not what you think. That's right. I think the first 25 pages or so of the book recount and give a foundation for Rendlesham, and then after that, it's off to the races with Nick, and we are going to be discussing all of that tomorrow night. It's going to be a great conversation. Thursday night, it's another Fader night. That's right. Open lines all night long. Okay, let's get straight to it. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hello to everybody that is listening from all around the world, and that includes everybody over on TalkStream Live and KGRA, the Planet. YouTube, hello. Twitter, hello. Facebook Live, hello. TalkStream Live, I said that. Tune in, iHeartRadio. Yeah, I think, and of course, everybody on our website and everybody that is in the sandbox right now. Good evening. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. You can also email directly during the show, and that is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Any questions or comments for myself or Johnny tonight? I almost said Mr. Enoch. I guess I could have. Just use hashtag F2BQ. That's Fade to Black Questions. Okay, on Twitter. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Get your immune system boosted. You need to make sure your stuff is in order. Now is the time to go and visit getthetea.com. Check out their specials page. There is an immunity package right there for you. Just click on the banner over on our site. Use the promo code FADER, and you will get free shipping over $50. I mean, churchradio.com. There's a telepath banner right there. Click on it and get registered. It's just a free newsletter with great stuff there. Okay, all about the paranormal, the supernatural, and conspiracies, and Micah Hanks writes. Yeah, Micah Hanks is in there. Clyde Lewis. So come and join us and sign up for the Telepath newsletter. The links are over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can't miss the banner. It's right there on our homepage. Also, when you are over at jimmychurchradio.com, this is how the show is supported. It's supported by you. And when you visit our sponsors, like Billy Carson's ForbiddenKnowledge.tv, his new internet TV network. And just go and sign up. You get 3 days. You get a 3-day trial membership. And what more do you want? Go and check it out. You got to test drive the car, right? ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. The banners are over at jimmychurchradio.com. And, of course, River Moon Coffee. Best coffee in the world. Fade to Black blend. Hands down, the best. Second best, Game Changer. Now, for you, it may be Game Changer, may be your preference. That's fine. But we now have 2 blends made for us by River Moon Coffee. Fade to Black blend and Game Changer. Go to their Amazon store. Check it out. The banners are over at jimmychurchradio.com. 2 different promo codes for River Moon Coffee. If you're on Amazon, use Jimmy RMC, all caps. That's Jimmy River Moon Coffee. Jimmy RMC. You'll get an additional 5% off of your order. Your Amazon Prime, you get free shipping. It's already discounted. You're all set to go. If you go to the River Moon Coffee website, and those banners are at jimmychurchradio.com too as well, just use the promo code F2BBLEND. 15% off of your order today. Let's get to the breaking news. Today, the news broke. Man, I got a few huge news stories tonight. Huge. None bigger than this one, though. Today, the news broke that Nicolas Cage will play Joe Exotic in a scripted television series based on The Tiger King. No word yet on the network or production company. All of that is under wraps. Top secret stuff. But I gotta say, Cage playing Exotic is a near perfect casting. Think about it for a second, right? Although I was hoping for Rob Lowe. I really was. I thought Rob Lowe, Matthew McConaughey would have been a great Joe Exotic, but I'll settle for Nicolas Cage. It's going to be amazing. And as soon as I got some more news on this to report, I will let you know. Now, new research indicates that organic life could thrive on planets with hydrogen-dense atmospheres, throwing the search for extraterrestrial life wide open because the next generation of telescopes is about to kick off. So now it's not the oxygen-rich planets they're going to be interested in. It's all of them. Astronomer Sarah Sager, professor of planetary science and physics and aeronautics and astronautics at MIT, is she's a little wary of our Terra-centric view of life. That's right. And wanted to explore what other kinds of habitats beyond Earth might foster life. Not necessarily oxygen-dependent, carbon-based. The life as we know it. Sager and her team studied 2 microbes and their tolerance to 100% hydrogen environments. The first was the bacteria Escherichia coli, and the second, yeast. The results were conclusive as it gets. The microbe populations thrived. That's right. A hydrogen-based life form. Let your imagination just go, right? Does that change things? You know what I think changes things with evolution and life forms? Gravity. Yeah, gravity. You got a gravity-dense planet, right? Lots of gravity. Short people. No gravity. Tall people. I'm just saying. Gravity sucks. Think about that. It's great. Now, Elon Musk back in the news. And 2 of Elon Musk's massive multi-million-dollar Southern California homes in Bel Air. And if you've ever been to Southern California and been to Bel Air, you know what I'm talking about. And everybody across the country knows what Bel Air is all about. Well, 2 of his homes in Bel Air, more on that in just a minute, by the way, are on the market just days after he said he planned to sell off everything that he owns. And I'm quoting here, I'm selling almost all physical possessions. Will own no house, end quote. That's what the billionaire Tesla and SpaceX founder said on Twitter last Friday. And when a follower asked why, Musk responded, and I'm quoting, freedom. That's right. But he's got a lot to sell because he owns 5 other homes in Bel Air. That's right. Elon Musk, the most exclusive zip code in the world, Bel Air. And trust me, you live in Bel Air, everybody knows everybody in Bel Air. There's not that many houses in Bel Air. They're all big and they're spread apart. Beverly Hillbillies. Well, anyway, hold on. Enough of that. But let me just get to the point. 7 homes in Bel Air. That's how rich that guy is. 7 homes in Bel Air. So 2 are up for sale. If he's going to put his money where his tweet is, he's got 5 more. He's going to sell 7. Absolutely incredible. Now, according to, this just happened, by the way. According to the European Space Agency, last week on April 27th, the small asteroid 2020 HS7 passed by 26,550 miles away from the center of the Earth. Let me tell you something. That is close. And it was just 750 miles from the nearest satellite in geostationary orbit. And if that doesn't freak you out, right? That is one of the more distant rings of satellites surrounding Earth. Almost took it out. 750 miles. That's close. The space rock passed below the satellite and left it undamaged and was caught on video. And it's crazy to watch. The flyby is one of the 50 closest to Earth on record. And nobody knew about it. Finally, a story that broke over the weekend and has taken over the internet and soon the United States. What do I mean by that? Well, a roughly 2-inch long insect known as the murder hornet has made its way to the United States for the first time ever. It's known as the Asian giant hornet, Vespa mandarinia. Say that 5 times. Has been known to kill up to 50 people a year in Japan and has, did you hear what I just said? and has the potential to devastate U.S. bee populations. The hornets made their way to the United States for the first time this past December when the Washington State Department of Agriculture verified 4 reports of sightings. The hornets were also spotted in 2 locations, British Columbia, in the fall. Now, I watched, this was, I'm going to say 3 years ago, I watched a documentary on the Asian giant hornet from Japan. And I watched what these hornets do to a beehive. They go in, they decapitate the bees, they go in, these honeybees, they go in, and this is snack time for these, and these hornets are ginormous. You know, they're saying 2 inches, and that's big, right? I think they're bigger. But the point is, they would go in and wipe out tens of thousands of bees in minutes. They decapitate them. It's just like and the ground is covered with the heads of. That's Japan's issue. We've got the Pacific Ocean between us. That's Japan's issue. Thank goodness we're not dealing with that over here. But now we are. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Something other than coronavirus in the headlines was actually pretty cool. Just happened to be a murder hornet. All right, the StarWorks UFOs and Artificial Intelligence Conference in Laughlin, Nevada is happening this November 5th through the 8th. I'm going to be there. Grant Cameron, Paul Hynek, James Fox, Alan Stivelman. Looking forward to that. Sid Goldberg's going to be there with another dozen great speakers, international and national. Just go to StarWorksUSA.com for tickets and info. I'm going to be there. Rita's going to be there. The Faded Black Crew is going to be there. It's going to be awesome. All right? StarWorksUSA.com. The banners are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Today, I hosted the Disclosure Fest live stream with Dr. Stephen Greer, and if you checked it out, it was pretty cool. It was another great conversation with Dr. Greer. And we announced today, I announced it last week, the date for Disclosure Fest has been moved back from June 20th to August 8th, okay? Now, the state of California, city of Los Angeles say that's the safe date, but we also have a couple of other dates. If we have to keep moving it back in like September and October, we can keep going in that direction if we need to. We do anticipate, around 20,000 attendees, and we just want to make sure with a crowd that large that everybody is safe. So go to disclosurefest.org for all of the updated information. Disclosurefest.org. The banners are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Let's get the show cracking. Happy birthday to today, the one and only Black Sabbath original gangsta, Bill Ward. Today, 72 years old. Adele today is 32. Man, I had to double check that. 32 years old. Man, that James Bond, yeah, that was pretty good. Echo and the Buddy Man frontman Ian McCulloch, today, 61 years old. One of the greatest songs in rock history, The Killing Moon. I played it on Coast to Coast this weekend. See, that's the universe. That's duality for you right there. I didn't know it was Ian's birthday. I just liked the song. Something made me play it. I did. Today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Ian. 61 years old. On this day in history, 1961, Navy Commander Alan B. Shepard is launched into space aboard the Freedom 7 space capsule, becoming the first American astronaut to travel into space. And then, 10 years later, in 1971, he planted an American flag on the moon. Alan B. Shepard. Fader fact. Okay, now here you go. Now, you would never think that there was a connection between Isaac Newton and coronavirus. And I know what you're saying to yourself right now. You're like, what? Where are you going with this? Listen to this fader fact. Isaac Newton described lockdown as one of the most productive times in his life, during which he developed theories on optics, calculus, the laws of motion and gravity. So, what are you doing during this lockdown? Nothing? Think about it. All right. Tonight, Jonny Enoch is here. Very excited. Man, I slurred that. Did I slur that? Jonny Enoch is here tonight. Let me sip this River Moon coffee. Obviously, I need more. Break every rule of broadcasting. Right there. Drink coffee into a live mic. No shame in my game. River Moon Coffee, Fade to Black Blend. It is truly the best coffee in the world. You got to get yourself some. All right. So, as most of you may know by now, a week ago, last Monday, the Navy and the Pentagon decided to officially, air quotes, release 3 UFO videos: the FLIR, the Gimbal, and the Go Fast. Now, since then, I've spoken to many leaders of this community to get their opinion on the timing of the release. And now, there are many factors for this, the release, and most of them we don't know anything about, and we shouldn't. And that is to be understood. I get it. It may be, though, that the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA request from John Greenwald was in play. And to meet his FOIA request would also mean to have an actual official release at the same time. And yes, for me, it makes a lot of sense. But they could have delayed that FOIA request or not responded at all until they felt the time is right. Which brings us to the obvious thought. The Navy and the Pentagon probably decided that the official release should happen now during the crazy news cycle of the coronavirus crisis. And hopefully, it would get lost in all of the static. And if this is the case, and it probably is, by the way, it looks like it worked. But that is not what is most important. What is most important is that although the media covered this story, front page headline stuff around the world, the response from people of Earth was pretty muted and tame. Now listen, I asked this very question to John Greenwald. I posited it last night to Whitley Strieber and earlier today to Dr. Stephen Greer. All 3 nearly answered it word for word. The same thing. And they said, well, Jimmy, it's like this. First, that the news wasn't exactly new. Right? This was the 3rd time the Pentagon had released these videos. And second, everyone is buried right now with coronavirus headlines. Right? And third, by now, everyone on this planet just assumes that we are not alone in the universe. Now, for me, I can't believe that I'm able to talk about this. That we've actually had too much media coverage on the UFO subject. That people around the world are seriously getting numb to the news. It's never been like this before. In years past, we would get excited when Larry King did his annual UFO show on CNN, or there was a special on TV, UFOs Live from Las Vegas, whatever, right? Or the occasional news story about a local sighting. Well, that's all we ever got. And we had to fight for that, right? But today it's like, be careful what you wish for. Because now it seems that the UFO community has it all. The news media is behind us. We have major film studio releases happening all year long. Conferences are bigger and better than ever. Washington and the Pentagon are talking. Celebrities are out of the closet, right? TV networks have more UFO programming than ever before. Things are good right now. Almost too good. The UFO subject is out there so much, it is so saturated globally that now people are truly numb. Is this part of the grand plan? Now, I know all of you like to type those words, right? Social media. Drip, drip, drip. Drip, drip, drip. Well, that may be what's going on. You just keep it coming. Asteroids, exoplanets, fast radio bursts, Pentagon videos, sightings, documentaries, celebrities, news, media, pummel. And then when the big thing drops, it's going to be nothing. Because last week, that news from the Pentagon, and it wasn't that there were UFOs in that video, it was that UFOs were being discussed, UAPs, around the world on every major media news outlet, and nobody cared. You can put it on coronavirus, absolutely. You can put it on people don't care anymore, yes. You can say that everybody understands that we're not alone in the universe. Come on, we knew it all along. You can say that too. But as long as they continue this, is this part of the big plan? Is that why the Navy did this last week? Think about that. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jonny Enoch is here. We're going to be talking about his recent trip to Egypt and to the UK. Who visited him? What happened? What was said? Right? And what did he see in the skies? We're going to cover all of that tonight. Tomorrow night, Nick Redfern is here. He's got a new book out, and it's about Rendlesham. Thursday night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Jonny Enoch at Jonny Enoch on Twitter, but that's Johnny without an H and two N's. We've got it up in our Twitter feed. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
OMG! People are jumping on board to the Life Change Tea Regiment. Brew, steep, and drink for a gentle, taste-great cleanse. It's changing how they feel. See what everybody's talking about. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Life Change Tea aids in digestive slowdown and helps people get moving down a healthy path. We won't make claims. We'll just let you decide. Experience is much better than a commercial anyway. If you want results, log on to getthetea.com and purchase your super strength cleansing tea. You won't be disappointed. And if you're looking for some mind-body suggestions, go to YouTube and punch in the search bar Health Matters Now. That's Health matters now. Put power into your health now. So, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com for super strength tea. And YouTube, Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now for valuable suggestions. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, right here on this program, Jonny Enoch. Get ready for that. He is in the batter's box right now. Tomorrow night, Nick Redfern is going to be joining us talking about his new book, The Rendlesham Forest UFO Conspiracy. So how much you think this time around about Rendlesham? It's going to be a great conversation. Thursday night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. But tonight, it's all about Jonny Enoch. That's right. Now, this is the deal. We're going to be talking about his recent trip to Egypt and the United Kingdom, a visitation that happened, and an incredible UFO sighting. What happened, what was said, the who, what, where, and when, and why are all going to go down tonight. We're going to talk about what was revealed to him and our future on this beautiful blue planet. Jonny's groundbreaking research has been featured in numerous interviews, articles, and has been well received at conferences. His goal is to prepare the public for full disclosure and create a peaceful future that includes space exploration and the development of consciousness-based sciences. Currently, he is a featured speaker on the Ancient Mysteries Tour of Egypt and the Serpentine Mysteries Tour of Peru and Bolivia with Brien Foerster at Hidden Inca Tours. He's also writing a book on advanced civilizations and ancient consciousness technologies, and his YouTube channel, which is excellent. The links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Jonny Enoch. Jonny, good evening, my man. How you doing?
Good evening, Jimmy. I'm feeling great. It's awesome to be here, as always, with all the Fader knots. Let's get this thing started.
Well, see, this is the thing, Jonny, with you, and I really appreciate that, and the Fader knots love to hear their name called out by a guest, man. That is just amazing. But how's it been for you to go out there into the community, not only to do these tours and the conferences and television and things, but people want to hear from you. Right? And it may be the way that you speak, it may be the research, it may be the knowledge, your personality, a combination of all of the above, but the community has just brought you in with open arms. How does that make you feel?
Well, thank you for saying that, Jimmy. That's very kind of you. I think that people just love these sort of topics. They want to know what's out there. They're curious about the same sorts of things that you and I look at. And you know what's great about this, Jimmy, is that I run into so many Fader knots, just like Jason out there in Calgary and the people out there that are the Fader knots. They're awesome. And when I do run into them, they'll be like, hey, I heard you talking to church. And, what do you think about this or that, this old mummy or whatnot? So I think everybody's waking up, just like what you were saying in your conversations with Whitley Strieber, Dr. Greer. I mean, they've been putting this stuff in our faces, and now they're starting to pay attention.
Yeah, I see pictures of you around the world, including this recent trip to Egypt, right? And I'm looking at these pictures, and there's a Fade to Black shirt, right? And,
That's it. That's it. Well, Brien Foerster and I were talking, and when we were talking, we were saying that, he has this thing that he likes to wear the Fade to Black stuff up in Peru. Did you see the pictures?
Oh, yeah, I've got tons of pictures from Brien. He's so proud of that shirt, man. I've got pictures at Machu Picchu, Cusco. The Fade to Black shirt has been all around the world, and Brian's been a big part of that. And so, but what does that say to you? it's sure it's a great program and it's fun for me to do every single night. But the Fadernauts are global and they're proud and they are a family. And I just love it when I see a picture of you at the Great Pyramid with Foerster, and on both ends of the crowd are Fade to Black shirts. Hey, that's
No, I love all that. Now, here's the crazy part, man, is that at the beginning of the show, you were talking about how some of these positive facts out there, you were saying that during this time we're going through, you could look back at, let's say, Sir Isaac Newton, and he did all these great things when he was experiencing a quarantine or a lockdown. We can see the same sort of idea when we go back into Shakespeare. He had this idea where he wrote King Lear. I think right now, the great thing about our community coming together and everybody, being in this position where we have time to slow down, we have time to look at things, we have time to come together. I think now people are getting a moment to contemplate this stuff. What's going on? What haven't we been told out in the universe? How often are we getting visited? And that's the great thing about the Fadernauts, Jimmy. Out of all the shows that I do, I've told you this before, out of the shows that I do, and there's nothing like the Fadernauts. The way that they come on Twitter, the ideas, the questions. I love that community that's growing, and I think it's a movement.
Well, one of the things that I most appreciate about you and the way that you do it, there are a lot of, which is fine, right? I'm not saying anything negative here, but there are a lot of researchers out there that do their research in libraries or the internet, and they compile things and they write a book and they'll have a blog, and the information is great and it's fun. All right, there's that side, and then there's you, right? And I look, and you seem to be all over the planet at these sites, all over North and South America, all over Europe. It's Egypt, for instance, and you are out there getting the research done. And I just look at these pictures, and I've always been a little bit jealous because I don't have the time to get out there and do it. But that's the way that you have chosen to do things, right?
Absolutely, Jimmy. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy. I always feel that you can get so much knowledge from books. But knowledge is useless without wisdom. I run into so many guys out there, guys and gals, that have so much great information, but it's like they can tell you, okay, well, I can look at that symbol over there, and I can tell you that the goddess on the back of the Starbucks cup, well, that's Isis or Pisces, or they'll connect it with something darker. They'll say, okay, there's a conspiracy there, and I'll say, well, actually, if you dig a little deeper and you look at the transformative ideas that come with it, there is a beautiful unfolding of these things when we start to put the patterns together. So when we start to apply these things in our lives, that's the great thing. And again, I want to return the compliment to you, my friend, because I've noticed this with you. You aren't just asking questions that are pointless. When it comes to Egypt, Jimmy, I know you play ball. I've heard you on there with Stephen Mailer or any of your guests. You can throw the zingers back because you're an Egyptology nerd too. I love that.
Yes.
You get in there, man. And so that's the thing. You really got to get out there and dig deeper, go down the rabbit hole, and that's where the treasures are. That's when things start unlocking. There's a certain magic. It's like the universe starts to support you. So that's why even recently, with all this crazy stuff happening in the world, Jimmy, just crazy stuff out there, it starts to unfold. We had a tour coming up to Egypt. As I told you, it was around the March 14th date. And do you remember things they hadn't gotten crazy yet? Do you remember that time?
Yeah, I do. And I remember not only us talking about it, but and I was watching Brian's post and things. I thought, man, things are getting a little nutty. And this was another thought that I had. And let's start off here, actually. It is no mystery that Egypt, for a lot of different reasons, the tourism there fell off the edge of a cliff. and they were struggling to get it back, and they wanted to get the new museum open and wanted to get tourism back, and they love the tourism dollars. They love tourists in Egypt. There's no question about it. It is the foundation of their economy, right? Well,
totally.
With all of that going on and them doing everything that they can to roll out the red carpet to tourism and to get it back to where it once was, coronavirus hits. And I know that you guys are going out there. So as this crosses my mind, this is what I thought. They are going to have empty temples and pyramids to go through. They're not going to be fighting the tourist. You know, they are going to be alone in this tour group, and it's going to be like it's private for just them. And I thought that thought actually crossed my mind. So I'm going to start right there. Was it like that?
Well, yeah. You know, the crazy part about it is that there was a bit of that because leading up to that, we were all geared up to go on this trip, and slowly, you know, going up to the trip, the people who had signed up for the trip started to drop off like flies, and they said, well, okay, we'd like to move our registration to next year. So we do have a lot of people that are all automatically signed up for next year, which is great. But every day that crept closer to this thing, they're all starting to cancel or reschedule. And so I'm like, that's okay. And I actually had talked to Mohammed Ibrahim, my friend who I do the tours with. And I said, Mohammed, do you think we should cancel? And he goes, well, I don't know. You know, he said, talk to Brien. I called Brien, and Brien said, don't worry about it. He's like, things are great. I'm down here with 40 people right now. He's like, Egypt's doing great. Everybody was feeling awesome. The sites, just like you said, were clear. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. But as the days started to creep closer to this thing, you know, people were telling me that there were less and less of them. One guy in particular made this strong argument on me. This guy named Abraham, and he's living over in Costa Rica. He's an engineer, and I know he's a fader nut, so hello out there to Abraham. I think that's actually how he found out about the tour, because I get a lot of guys from Fade to Black that actually have contacted us.
Sure.
So he says to me, he goes, Johnny, please don't cancel this tour. He's like, I quit my job for this. He said, these are my life savings. He goes, I want to come on this trip. And he goes, you got to do it. And I said, well, that's it. You know, I have a fault, Jimmy. One of my faults is I can't say no to a good adventure.
Sure. And who could?
Yeah. It's like the great Hunter S. Thompson once said. He said, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro, right?
That's right. That's a fact.
That is a fact. So, you know, in the weeks leading up to this thing, you know, I have my younger sister who, you know, I love her, but she can be very pessimistic sometimes. Of course, the whole time she was very helpful. Every day sending me the most negative fear statistics. But still, when nobody had quarantined yet, society was still open. There was, you know, the toilet paper aisle was getting empty at Costco, but I mean, it was still normal. It wasn't apocalyptic Costco yet. So everything was good then. I hop on the plane. And I start going out to this thing, and it starts to dawn on me that something's not right in the world. You know, the airport is looking like a ghost town. There's like 3 people in hazmat suits and wearing gloves, and it's a little strange, but it's still good. You know, I got lots of leg room on the plane, right?
Right.
And weren't you, Jimmy, supposed to be out at a conference with Sid Goldberg out in London?
Yep, Manchester.
What did they reschedule that?
Yeah, it's same date, just next year in 2021. Had to do it, you know, and just like everything else, there were a few conferences like what you and Brien did over in Egypt that were right on the edge. Okay, we did the Conscious Life Expo at the beginning of February as things were taking off, and that was at LAX at the airport, an international airport with all of this stuff going down, and it was right on the edge. If that conference would have been scheduled for a week later, it would have been canceled. There's no question about it, because we all know what happened after that. But yes, there was contact in the desert. You were supposed to be there, and of course, Manchester and a bunch of other events, and we just had to move the dates for Disclosure Fest. Which is scheduled for June and is now been moved back to August. But so now traveling at that time, this is the thing. I noticed you had posted some pictures of the pyramid getting disinfected, right?
Yeah, well, that was coming up. That was coming up a little later. That's when things got crazy. When I first was booking this thing to Egypt, the Egyptian attitude was this. When I was calling over there, they're like, Habibi, Habibi. It means they were saying, don't worry about Corona. We're not worried about it. We've survived thousands of years of plagues over here. We don't care, right? It's business as usual.
Right.
So even during the quarantine over there, it was like they would close at 7 o'clock at night. Instead of being open 24 hours a day, because it's like Las Vegas over there. It's just constant movement of things. It's so lively and beautiful and amazing. I just love the energy there. But even then, it was still, they were cautious, but it wasn't as restricted. So on the way there, though, Jimmy, I'm a guy, as you know, I know you talk to a lot of different people, and so do I in my research. In my research, I work with archaeologists, I work with scientists, I work with doctors, but I also work with remote viewers and psychics. And I didn't know how big of a part that was going to play on this trip. So even when I was traveling, I was at the airport, I have some friends that were reassuring me, because as sure as I was that I had this feeling that I was supposed to go on this thing, because I was overcome with a feeling that said, no, you absolutely have to go. Even though everybody around me is telling me, don't do it, you're going to get stuck there, it's not going to work out. And then the other end, I'm hearing, my friends in Egypt say, hey, everything's fine. The planes are still coming and going. You got no problems. A friend of mine who is a psychic out here, Derek White Sky Cloud, he says to me, when you go, there's no problems. But he goes, you're going to get a visitation from a ghost in your room at one time. And I'm thinking he's talking about in England and one of my haunted places I'm staying at, or a castle or something on the way home. I don't know what that's going to be, but I said, okay, that's great. But where my story gets really interesting that I wasn't expecting, Jimmy, that really brought out this adventure, was I have a friend, Patricia Mona, and she is a very gifted remote viewer. She finds a lot of bodies for law enforcement, and she's just sensational at that. I kept asking her for reassurance. I'm like, are you sure I'm going to be okay? Am I going to be fine, going through this thing? She goes, don't worry, you're going to be fine. There's going to be hassles getting back, she tells me. There's going to be some hassles, as we'll get to. There was. But she goes, you're not going to catch the virus. Don't worry about that. She goes, I don't see that. She said, but this is a very important trip for you to take. It's much more important than even the regular tour stuff. Something's going to happen to you there that is important as a shift that you have to go through. So I said, okay, well, I felt better. Here's people who I think are great remote viewers and psychics telling me I'm going to be fine. So I moved through with that and just kept pounding back all these vitamins and supplements. Have you ever heard of something called thieves oil, Jimmy?
No, but sounds like I should take it. Anything called thieves is pretty cool.
Well, thieves oil was something that these plague robbers used to use, where they put it under their nose, and it was blended. It was an ointment that was blended with clove, eucalyptus, cinnamon, and rosemary. And the idea with this is that even when the plague was going, that if anything was airborne, the fumes coming up from under your nose, you'd be breathing this stuff in, that it would destroy the delicate membrane or whatever particles you're breathing in, so you would stay immune. So everywhere I go, I must have reeked like this stuff, because here I was using this plague ointment and putting it on everywhere, and thinking that this was my natural solution instead of wearing a mask. So it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it sounds like something I would drink. And see, the other part, I think the reason why they put it under their nose is so they wouldn't smell the death.
That's it, too. That's it.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. At that point in Egypt, when I landed into Cairo, the only thing that was going at that point is that you'd go to Cairo and you're greeted by someone holding this little laser tool, and they start aiming it at my forehead. And then, so at that point, I arrived there after a long trip, and I'm thinking that, unlike you, I'm a big coffee guy, so I'm just pounding back coffee the whole time. That's the secret, really, when you're traveling and you got all the jet lag, is just coffee, and then you switch to beer if you feel that you're too jet lagged, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking, hey, I hope that my temperature is okay. I feel great. I feel fantastic. It must be all the thieves' oil. So then they start aiming this laser at my head, and sure enough, I pass, which is great. After I get there and I go through everything, at that point, everybody was still kind of chill. You know, they were still good in Egypt. And, you know, I get back into my room. I see the guy that's starting a tour, and I, you know, start to sleep. And everything's good until the next day. It really starts to hit. All the news channels in Egypt are starting to hit. At that point, you know, Brien already had 40 people there. Brien Foerster was going around, and he and I talk every day. So we were going to meet up and you know, just chill out with the groups and all that. And all of a sudden, you know, the news hits, and then it's crazy because my plane comes in there. Is like one of the last planes that come in, and they announced, Jimmy, at that point, no more flights coming into Egypt.
Whoa,
that's it.
Whoa, hello.
They're saying flights are done, and then that's when the sheer panic starts to hit, along with all the messages that are coming in from wonderful people back home saying, you know, all the great things. And I have to remind myself at that point, no. You know, even though there's that lack of sleep, you're here for a purpose. We're going to do this tour. It's going to be great. You know, I got great friends there. I love the place. Even if I can't go out of the place, I'm going to be like Gilligan's Isle for maybe a little bit. Like, I'm just going to make the best of it. So we go out the next day, and we start to go out and, you know, explore Egypt and everything like that. But and Muhammad's not worried at all. He's starting to tell me that he says he sees this all very spiritually, Jimmy. He says that all of this was predicted, just like Nostradamus predicted at the turn of the 21st century, that there was going to be a great transformation for humanity. Muhammad tells me, he goes, I'm completely calm, my friend. He said, this is the cycle from the ancient Egyptians of the scarab. He said, this is the kefir. And he said, when this changes at the beginning of a cycle, he goes, there's a great transformation in the world and some kind of strange panic happens. But he goes, it always turns into something good. You know, it's a positive of cleansing out the old and bringing the new inspiration. So I'm like, okay, that's great. Thanks, Muhammad, for that. And he goes, tomorrow we're going to have a brand new day. He goes, let's drink some mango juice. Meanwhile, I knew things were starting to get crazy in Egypt because people were watching the news, and they're like walking out of stores with like television sets and deep freezers and bags of oranges, and it's going kind of crazy at that point. And
the other thing is there are reports now of like the biggest locust that it's moving across Africa now and heading towards Egypt that they have seen in hundreds of years.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that it's according to Muhammad, and he said the ancient Egyptian writings and cycles, that this cycle of weather and changes and everything we're having is this transformation of humanity, and that, you know, what we go through it, and, you know, when we get to the other side of it, it's a wonderful thing. It's an awakening, so to speak, according to the ancient Egyptians. But, you know, that night, Jimmy, I must admit, finally, you know, 48 hours of no sleep, all of this stuff starts to eat away at me. It starts to get at me, and I'm sitting in that hotel room after 48 hours of no room. I'm trying to go to sleep in the bed covered in this Egyptian cotton, and I'm laying there lifelessly. It's total darkness, staring at that maze of hypnagogic images dancing around the back of my eyeballs.
Right.
And outside, I just hear all that crazy Cairo traffic. You think LA traffic's crazy? You should see it in Cairo. There's people honking and screaming at each other in Arabic at all hours of the night. And at that point, thoughts are racing through my head. Like, am I actually, all those messages I'm getting, I'm like, am I actually going to get out of this place? Well, I love Egypt, so I guess I'm really going to get to know it now. But all of that starts to come, and all of a sudden I start to feel a bit of anxiety. But Jimmy, I don't know how else to tell you this, except, you know, this was a supernatural event that happened to me. All of a sudden, in the darkness, to the left of me, in my bedroom there, I felt this tall, powerful presence come into the room. It's on the left side of my bed, and it comes towards me. I can just feel it emanating. It's literally imbuing my room with this sense of like peace and comfort.
You sure it's not Brien?
It was very powerful.
You sure it's not Brien Foerster with a tray of tea?
It might be Brien. Now, Brien is a powerful force.
He's a
in the
powerful
world.
force with his Fade to Black shirt on. So, okay, but we're going to be headed towards a break, and we're going to go into this very deeply after the break. But I want to ask you one question when this is going on. Your windows in the hotel room, can you see the pyramids?
You know what? Usually I can. Usually I get stationed near, we stay in the Le Meridien or one of those hotels where I always have a view of the pyramid. But at this point, we literally had shifted around huge blocks, and the hotels weren't sure when they were relocating people. So I wasn't staying at the usual place I was. But yeah, that's a beautiful thing. When you come to Egypt, you usually see it out of your bedroom window in the morning when you wake up.
Yeah, because having a supernatural, paranormal thing about to kick off in your room, and you've got, the curtains are blowing, the windows open, you got the pyramids outside of the... I'm just picturing that. But that's not the case, okay? So for everybody else, you're a couple of blocks off of the main drag there facing the plateau.
That's it. I'm very, very close. And we're there. And now... with that, are we going to break now, or should I continue?
No, I've got 60 seconds.
Okay, so this being comes into the room. It comes to the left side of my bed, and it has this telepathic message. I've never had anything happen to me like this before, Jimmy. The message comes into my mind. It's a very powerful, masculine voice, and it says, "Do not be afraid. You have come here for a purpose. You'll be able to leave when needed. Now you have work to do. You must get to rest." And all of the anxiety, all the panic, anything I had just went out, and I felt just so covered in warmth and peace. I went to sleep like a baby that night. And the next morning, that's when the adventure began.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Jonny Enoch. We're talking about his trip recently, last month, to Egypt and then to the United Kingdom. What happened in both countries? We're going to discuss all of it in detail tonight. We've got pictures up in Twitter, in my feed, hashtag F2B and at JChurchRadio. We'll be right back after this short break. You can follow me at JChurchRadio, and you can follow Jonny at Jonny Enoch. The links are up in our Twitter feed. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Introducing the new Surfer Music app. Listen, fade or not, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music. or click on the surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go Beckley Tepe.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprim a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Jonny Enoch is here tonight. Just got back from Egypt and the United Kingdom, and what went down over there, it's a pretty incredible adventure. And we're going through all of that tonight. There are a bunch of images over in Twitter. Now, I am going to ask Jonny for some clarification really quick as we go through these during the conversation tonight, and then we will continue with what was going on in his hotel room. And my first set of pictures, Jonny, I know you went through them, is the first image I presented. It's an airport. Is this in Cairo?
No, that airport that you're probably looking at, that is in Vancouver. So that's Vancouver. That's usually packed. Like, there are people wall to wall in there. You can't even move. In that picture, you see there's like 4 people around you. You know, you don't. It's incredible. It's unbelievable.
I should have known that. I've been to Vancouver's airport so many times, and it's actually one of the nicest airports in the friggin' world, and there's no question about that. And then there's 2 pictures on the interior of, I think it's the Step Pyramid. We're going to get to that in a second, but there's a picture of you with a couple.
That's a crazy story. So that couple right there, they're from Latvia, and here we are. That was on day 1. I was just going to mention them, so I'm glad that you brought that up. So just to clarify who they are, I'm out there, and there's nobody around, Jimmy. I get onto the Giza Plateau in the morning, and we're just our small little group. This thing is empty. It is a ghost town. There's like no one out there. We go up in there, and we're exploring some of the other pyramids underneath, and I'm bringing Abraham around. Doing our usual thing. You know, we talk about how the Giza Plateau was artificially leveled, just all the really interesting things about the pyramids and how they were built. And I'm down below this thing, and all of a sudden this big group comes in there. I'm like, what's going on? And this big group comes in there, and this couple comes up to me, and they tell me they're from Latvia and near Spain, and they're a big European ascension group that decided to do the same thing. And they said, screw this, we're going to go to Egypt. And they said, are you Jonny Enoch? And I said, yeah. And they said, we were just watching you on Gaia on the way here. And I said, that's crazy. So we took a selfie in the underneath Khafre. We're deep under the ground. Inside of there, there's two strangers I've never seen before. So it was actually a really cool part of the trip. And they themselves decided just to not give in to the fear of the world and to take a spiritual pilgrimage there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Who they are.
Now, these two other images, is this the step pyramid?
That's inside of the step pyramid of Dozier. Yeah, we'll get to that. That's an incredible place filled with secrets.
And they just opened it, didn't they? So you were some of the first people to get inside?
Yes, they did. That's exactly right. And they've been, quote unquote, Jimmy, quote unquote, renovating it for the last 14 years.
And then set number 2, which just absolutely incredible, are of the step pyramid. And the one without you is probably the best picture. And the one without you, it shows you the size of the step pyramid, and it's really an incredible shot. And it looks so different here than the other pictures that you see out there because they were from a different time. But it's definitely not only the interior that they've renovated, but the exterior too as well. It looks amazing. And
it does look good. They've been the last few times I've been there, I have noticed they were working on it, and they had the scalping up on the side. They were restoring it, but there are so many incredible mysteries in that area. Jimmy, just to take a moment before we go into it, near that area, as you know, there's the red pyramid and the bent pyramid, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we see in that area of Saqqara, where we get the word sacred from, near there you have Abu Sir, Abu Ghurab, and those are very significant, interesting places because that's nearby the ancient mega center of Egypt, which was Memphis. Memphis, it was where all the action in Egypt was. But, before we move on to this next set of pictures, people should know that there is a major secret in that area is like an energy grid. And, when we look at how these pyramids operate, when we look at the Serapeum, the underground boxes there, and there's so many more of those and so many that haven't been disclosed to the public, there's an area that your listeners, that the Fadernauts can look up. It's called Zayet El Arian. And Zayet El Arian, which is nearby there, I know you've heard of it, Jimmy.
Of course, talked about it many times.
Absolutely. I mean, we know as Zayet El Arian, which Arian means the naked place in Arabic. It is Egypt's Area 51.
There's no question.
It's an unfinished pyramidal complex. It's been guarded since the 1950s by foreign military. Our guys are there. But it also has an underground complex the size of New York City, and aircraft can come and go out of there without being seen. And from what I have been told, is that inside of there's a real live active Stargate. And when I have asked certain remote viewers what it looks like, they tell me it looks like an aurora borealis coming out of the ground there. So that whole area, including what's connected to this pyramid and connected to those areas, is extremely interesting with all kinds of strange energy. The only way I can describe it is extraterrestrial.
Now, the other part, the third image in set 2 is the tunnel, part of the tunnel complex that is underneath the step pyramid. And it has been measured, the tunnels there, in kilometers, right? I mean, it's just, it's insane. But this picture gives me claustrophobia. Just looking at, I don't know if I could do it. What's it like walking underneath through this maze of kilometers of tunnels underneath the step pyramid?
It's crazy. I'll post a video of it after. I got a video I took, and I was actually going to send it over to you. And then it's very very small format. But with that, the thing is that any of these any of these can be brutal. Up in the Red Pyramid or the Bent Pyramid or some of these, they really take it out of you when you go down into these. And some of them you have to go down on your hands and knees, or you have to really crouch. Even for me, I used to think that going down underneath the subterranean chambers even of the Great Pyramid was such fun. And I know Muhammad these days, he likes to sit back and drink hibiscus tea while everyone else in the group goes down. I still try to do it, but it exhausts you. This one isn't as bad. it is sort of claustrophobic. There is some ducking, but it's not as bad as some of them. They've done a great job with that. But even if you're going down 50 meters or so, or 50 feet or so, whatever the length you got to go, the secret here is, Jimmy, and I got to be careful what I say here with this. I can hint at it. There is quite a bit more going down even underneath the depths that they take you already. When you look in there, for example, in the first set that is very much connected to the tunnel picture that you're looking at, when you finally get down there,
right,
there is a giant box in the middle of that thing that's made of rose granite, and it's totally freaky when you see this. One of the greatest secrets is that you can go down even further below that. You go down another 50 meters below that, and you might say that just like places like Iran or Persia, where the Nazis and other people were looking on their expeditions, there's these giant subterranean underground tunnel systems all through these ancient areas. And the Giza Plateau and these areas over by Saqqara, those are of no exception. So we might ask ourselves, what were they tapping into there? Were they tapping into, these great energy fields, ley lines, and more?
Well, and you have to, as a researcher or anybody that's interested in Egypt, you have to wrap your head around timelines here and what is been the accepted dogma of these timelines, that the Step Pyramid, allegedly, according to Egyptologists, was built before the Great Pyramid. Okay, so if you accept that, you just take that at face value, which I don't. But if you take that at face value, we are talking about 50 centuries ago. We are talking about when the rest of the world was running around in animal skins, right? And somehow in Egypt, and I'm talking about Stone Age man, this is before everything.
That's right.
Right? Egypt didn't have the wheel, right? They barely had fire. If you go with their accepted timelines and their story, okay? Now, the Dozier, the Step Pyramid is so complex and so insane that Stone Age man dug a tunnel system that was kilometers, plural, underneath the temple or the monument, whatever you want to call the Step Pyramid, is built on top of it. It's an incredible feat of engineering when nobody else in the world was doing it. Well, except for Göbekli Tepe, but that's another story altogether, right? And that's when you're talking about a rose granite box. I mean, it's like, how did it get there? Who did it? And these are the things that you observe and have to ponder while you're going through this tunnel system. And the other part, and Johnny, I'm sorry I'm interrupting your story.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Saqqara, well, for the audience, you have to understand the layout there. Saqqara sounds like a distant land. It's not. Saqqara butts up against the Giza complex, and all of these areas that we are talking about, you can stand out there and see the pyramids in the distance. You can see the Red Pyramid. If you, depending on where you are in Saqqara, you can look at the Giza Plateau. These are defined by words, not by distance. It's all actually one place. So when you talk about a tunnel system in Saqqara, or any of the areas there, including the Giza Plateau, it's not a stretch of the imagination that all of these are connected. Right now, it's just that they're covered by sand, right?
That's it. I mean, there's so much under the Sahara. And also, places like the Gobi Desert, from that matter, I believe that we're going to discover so much lost ancient technology, so much that's been buried there, and there is a purpose for these and why they're built. But that's the thing about that Dozier pyramid. When we were going through there, we had this private permission, of course. You see things, you feel things. Rose granite, Jimmy, is very conductive of that electromagnetic energy or piezoelectrical energy, which is very important to these things. But when we see why that all fits together, the Egyptians were very intelligent with that. They understood that there was different types of stone to work with and different cycles and different sound resonant areas, as you know. And that's when I love talking about these subjects with you, is because you've done the homework. But, we might say that when we go over into the Great Pyramid, though, I mean, this magnificent edifice is, the crown of it all, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, okay, two are all about for everybody that are all over Twitter right now. You know what's going on. Let's get back to your hotel room and that visitation. So,
okay, so I get this visitation. It's in the hotel room. It's telling me, do not be afraid. You've come here for a purpose. You're going to be able to leave when you need. Now, get some rest. Get your ass to sleep, basically, it's telling me. And I was just filled up with this peace, this knowing. It was unbelievable. It's like every concern went away. It was completely, preternatural, which is even more intense than supernatural. So I'm in this state. I wake up the next day, and we get going on the Giza Plateau, as I mentioned to you, and I'd seen this couple, and I'm thinking that's a good sign. You're going throughout the day and seeing what you can do. But the next step is that I was going to take Abraham up into the Great Pyramid, but I already felt, Jimmy, I had a premonition that something interesting was going to happen that day in the Great Pyramid. I was being pulled to it. I knew I had to get up there and just spend time in there. Something was telling me it was important to be in there. Now, just so the folks at home know, I mean, I know you know, Jimmy, that the Great Pyramid is made of granite, sandstone, limestone. It's built like a Faraday cage. It's a magnificent edifice. It's, you've heard the facts before. It's a 13-acre span wide, 13-acre span. It goes across, 750 feet wide, 481 feet tall. It's got 22.5 million stones to it. It's like 70-ton bricks in this thing. It weighs over 6 million tons. The crazy thing about this Great Pyramid, I very much believe that it is a technology in every way. I mean, Jimmy, you know this. It's a polynomial tetrahedral structure that can be turned into a sphere using transdimensional mathematics. I mean, whoever built this thing was no dummy. I don't think it was built by slaves. Do you?
No, I don't. And I also don't believe, and if we go with the dogma, right, they just built it. There is, without plans, without engineering, without drawing things out, without blueprints, there is no way that the pyramid was built without extreme forethought. Right?
That's right. I mean, the mathematics behind it are incredible. You can use like pi, Fibonacci sequences, all the divine concepts, can match up there. You can multiply 6 million tons by a factor of 100 million, you get the mass of the Earth. And our mathematicians are always looking at this thing, and they're saying whoever did this was superior to anything we understand. So this was not just put together by accident. So the thing is with this, I'm always fascinated by the Great Pyramid, is that a lot of people have heard the story, Jimmy, about the time when Napoleon visited there. 1798, he comes to Egypt, and we know that he enters the Great Pyramid, and he goes up and spends the night there, and the next morning he comes out white as a ghost.
Changed.
He doesn't want to.
He's changed.
He doesn't want to.
Right.
What's that?
He's changed.
He's a changed man. He doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't talk about it till his deathbed, but he saw his Waterloo. He saw his life flash before him. He had an out-of-body experience, and we get an idea about that from a guy named Paul Brunton. Have you ever heard of a book called A Search in Secret Egypt?
No, but let's continue. Let's stay on this.
Okay.
We'll come
Paul
back to
Brunton,
that.
Jimmy.
Yes.
And I'm just going to mention him quickly because it kind of relates to how only thing I can say to explain what happened to me there. So Paul Brunton, he goes in 1930. He's inspired by the Napoleon story. And he goes and leaves England, goes out to the Great Pyramid, and he spends the night there. And he decides that when he spends the night there, he is going to just sleep up there in the king's chamber with nothing but a little candle. So he lights the candle. He goes to sleep up in the king's chamber. It's completely quiet, and the candle starts to flicker. He starts to see ghosts. These ghosts start to appear before him, and he starts to become very frightened. He says at that point, he's not sure whether he wants to run out of there, and get the hell out of there, because these beings start showing up, these shadows and ghosts, and they're coming like crazy. So he decides to just, tough it out. And so he's sitting there a little bit more, and all of a sudden he just becomes sucked out of his body. He has an out-of-body experience. He's astral projecting at that point. He sees these priests. They approach him, and they say to him, Jimmy, they say, "Come with us. We're going to show you something." They take him down to these secret chambers below the pyramid. And when they take him to this secret chambers, he's shown these records of different time periods throughout Egypt. And he's shown again that there is a secret Egypt. There is an Egypt running concurrently on top of this one, that it's just like a second copy of it, which also has all kinds of interesting implications to it. But he comes back. So almost everybody that comes up into that Great Pyramid feels a shift in consciousness. So I'm just saying that with what I'm about to share, what I experienced that day when I went up into the Great Pyramid. So I go up into the Great Pyramid, and I've been up there, a few times, and I've definitely seen people in our group have these experiences where they experience things. And you're not allowed to say meditation, but let's just say when you sit there and you close your eyes and do a breathing exercise. So, and when you're in Egypt, they prefer that you label it differently. So you go up into the Great Pyramid usually, and you explore around, do your thing. And that day, no one was around. It was just us. We go up into there, into the king's chamber. I sit down, and I'm very tired, and I close my eyes, Jimmy. And all of a sudden, after a minute or two, I feel this strange energy, this immensely strong energy enters in through the bottom of my feet and comes up. It's sucking up through me like a vacuum. I feel expanding into my head, and it just explodes out into the cosmos. It's this powerful feeling that comes over me like a presence. It was so strange. I had to almost recover there and just kind of breathe, and this sensation was so overwhelming to me. Maybe it was all the thieves' oil I was inhaling. Right. I don't know.
Right.
So at that point, it was very strange how I'd gone through it, and I needed a bit of time to kind of adjust to what had happened, and my mind was filled up with light, and I came out of there this feeling like I had this almost like a Kundalini awakening set of experience. It was very strange, but I didn't mention it too much, and I just kind of walked out of there. We went about our day and explored the Red Pyramid and all that. Anyhow, I talked to Patricia later that day, Patricia Mona, who's the remote viewer I told you about, who's been, she's been trained by folks from the Monroe Institute and everything. She told me some interesting things. She said, first of all, there is another copy of the Great Pyramid that she remote viewed, like a diamond underneath it. She said she could see that there is this another form of the pyramid, almost like a copy of it below it, which I've heard people say that before, that there is potentially another version of the Great Pyramid below it that give it its energy. She says, furthermore, when you're in that pyramid, there was a being in the king's chamber, she told me. She said this being was the same being that came into your hotel room the other night, this entity. It was an ancient Egyptian being, and she said that you were being drawn in there because they had to give you something. And I said, give me something? I said, well, that sounds strange. I said, I don't know why they'd want to give me something. She goes, they turned into this pillar of light and injected these light codes into your energy field that were hieroglyphics, and they look like you're carrying a backpack with you. And I said, what the hell does that mean?
Wait,
what am I supposed to do with that? I'm very open-minded, but I thought that's very interesting. She says, you're supposed to take this to England and a friend of yours is going to take you to a place in England. She goes, I see the whole thing happening right now. She goes, it's in the English countryside. It's near ley lines, and it has the name King in it. She goes, you're supposed to go there. And she goes, you're going to bring this energy with you. It's got information for what needs to happen in the future, the next cycle that we have to go through. And she said that these instructions would come to you. And she describes the place that we're supposed to visit. And she describes it. I'm going to meet a friend there. I'm going to meet with a friend in England. He's going to take me to a place. She goes, there's a field and there's a very long road and there's an ancient circle that the Druids used to go to. She describes the whole thing.
Okay, hold on. We'll get to that after the break. Or maybe even at the top of the hour. We got lots more to talk about. But hold on, we got to back up. Did you tell her about the visitation in your hotel room at Egypt?
No, she picks it up. I mean,
what?
She's one of those people that, you know, when you talk to these profoundly gifted remote viewers and psychics like a Pat Price type,
right?
Who, interestingly enough, she also had Pat Price visit her and tell her how he died. It was very interesting too that she told me she had never heard of him before. We can
the big secret, huh?
She's always picking stuff up like that. She told me these details and just laid it all out for me. And she's a type of person, when you're talking to her on the phone, she'll describe your room for you, what's in your car, what you're drinking, what your coffee tastes like. She's one of those people.
She's got the Pat Price secret?
She told me, she didn't even know who Pat Price was. She told me that it's very interesting because I had done this show I told you about, the Alaska Triangle for Travel Channel, and we had done an episode on Pat Price, and you and I had discussed him before.
Mm-hmm.
But we've all wondered who killed Pat Price. And she said Pat Price showed up to her and told her that he was killed by a KGB officer, that KGB was upset that he was doing spying over there. And it all makes sense now because of when he was spying, he was bringing a lot of, during those times. Do you remember the Russian stuff that he was seeing?
I do, and I guess I'll get visited tomorrow by some KGB agents when I'm at my mailbox. I thank you for that. Well, she
said she could see it, and she could see the whole thing and how his drink was poisoned. She could describe his room to him perfectly, and she said he wanted to get the story out. So that was very interesting. She told me that. But she sees these things in absolute vivid details. But in this particular case, what she told me, you're supposed to go to England and don't worry about it. So that was very strange. But even though she told me these things, Jimmy, it still didn't help that later that night the news came in, and of course my sister was the first to send me the article. It said all flights going out of Egypt are canceled.
And we're going to pick it. Well, hold on. We got to take our break right here. That's the perfect segue for the next segment. Our guest tonight is Jonny Enoch. We're talking about his recent trip to Egypt and then to the United Kingdom. Now, he hasn't left Egypt yet, so we're going to get back to that right after this short break. Stay with us. This is Fade to Black.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Introducing the new Surfer music app. Listen, Fadernauts, you know I love my music. This is my go-to for all things notes. The Surfer app is a brand new concept in music listening. Surfer is free, providing unlimited access to thousands of live streaming radio stations. Surfer is an exciting, interactive listening experience. Discovery and surprise are built right in. Surfer is your destination to discover and rediscover great live streaming music. It features high-quality audio streams, free access to music from thousands of live streaming radio stations, unlimited listening, unlimited skipping. You get a music visualizer, and you can also select your favorite channels. Get it at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Just search Surfer Music or click on the Surfer banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jonny Enoch is here. Now, if you ever miss a live show, right? Like this one in the now, right now with Jonny, just get our podcast. Click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com. We have over 1,200 shows right there for just $2 per month. Click on the podcast banner. And somebody just tweeted out, is there a list? Has anybody compiled the Fader facts? And I have them. I've done over 1,200 Fader facts. 1,200 Fader facts, Jonny. I'm a walking pillar of factum. Think about that.
You are. You're a fact machine, man.
There you go. A fact machine. Okay, now, you haven't left Egypt yet. The news breaks that's it, just like the rest of the world. No flights in, no flights out. Which, for me, it's not the flights coming into Egypt if you're in Egypt, right? It's the flights going out. You want to be able to go back home. Well, you got the bad news, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I got the bad news. Now, here's the thing. Just before that, Patricia, the Mona, she's an incredible remote viewer. I mean, she always astounds me, but there's still that skeptic part of me in my mind that tries to stay rational, that says, okay, well, the future is not set in stone. So when she tells me, you're supposed to go there, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be impossible. I look down at my phone, I get an email from British Airways, and they tell me, sorry, your flights are canceled. We can send you a refund. That's it.
Hey, Jonny, let me jump in really quick. You've You've started to distort like you are running through a fuzz pedal for a guitar. Something change in your settings?
How about now?
Okay, just step back from the mic.
Okay. Is that better?
No, but let's continue with the story. We'll fix it on the break.
Okay, so I go to, look down at my phone, and when I look down at my phone, it's telling me at that point, it's saying, everything is canceled. All your flights home are canceled. British Airways says you got no options, right? And do I still sound distorted?
No, you sound fine. You sound fine.
Okay, good. Now we've moved past the distortion. Now we can retort this.
That's right.
So, anyhow, I look down there and I'm freaking out. I'm going, oh my God, how am I going to get out of here? And what's going to happen? I hop on the phone. I call a friend of mine that works at British Airways. I have a friend named Colin Wolford out in England. He's the alien autopsy guy out there. He does amazing work and all that stuff, but he works at British Airways. So I got my guy over there on the inside of this. He's like running this crazy pandemonium is starting to take place. Everybody's freaking out. I try to get a hold of British Airways. I try to get a hold of him. I'm like, can you do anything for me? Can you get me a last-minute flight? All the flights are going up like the stock exchange, and the only thing out of there is like a Russian airline. But if I fly over to Moscow to get out of there, you need a Russian visa. You got to go to their embassy. That's impossible at that point. Even Brian, he's calling me. We're looking at options. How's he going to leave at that point? And we're trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen. And so... And this weird thing happens. I call them all night and they say, I'm sorry, sir, we got nothing. Maybe, you're just going to have to stay there. You're going to have to wait around for a few weeks or a month or whenever the airports come open again. Because at that point, they announce on the news, we've actually changed our mind. They say the Egyptian government says, we've changed our mind. We're now going to close down all the sacred sites and we're going to sanitize them. We're going to shut down our airports. We're going to shut down all people traveling, coming and going from the country. They've started to take it serious all of a sudden. Before they weren't taking it serious. Then they started all of a sudden to pay attention, right? And so, anyways, I'm up and I really can't sleep at that moment because then I'm told, it's one thing if you could go and look at sacred sites and you could go around the country. I wouldn't care much if I had to wait. But at that point, they're telling us that you'd be quarantined into a hotel and you're not able to go very far. There's not much to do, right? I go to sleep that night, Jimmy, and it's about 3 a.m. I'd been up all night trying to call, and I had no options. It was done. It was history. This presence I told you about, and I don't know what to make of this. This presence comes back into my room. You remember the one I told you about at the beginning that showed up on the left side of my room?
Right.
Okay. So that presence comes into my room and it starts to move towards me again. It starts to communicate to me telepathically, and it says, you will leave Egypt. And it said, pick up your phone right now and call British Airways. And it said, you must go to England. You will leave Egypt. You must pick up the phone right now. It was 3 a.m. on the dot. I pick it up. I dial it, and keep in mind, Jimmy, I'd already talked to them. They told me everything was sold out. All our flights are done. You got no options. I pick it up at 3 a.m. I dial them. I call British Airways one more time. I call it just because that voice was so strong and it was so commanding to me, that presence in my room. I call England, and they say to me, sir, we're looking at the flights, and there's one more flight tomorrow morning. It's at 6 a.m. It's the last flight we have until all the airports are shut down. But they're like, it's totally booked up. And then she goes, wait a second. She goes, something just happened. One seat was just canceled as I was talking to you on this corner part. And she's like, I got one seat open, and it's 3 hours from then. I have to get, literally, it's just 3 a.m. I have to get to that airport and take an Uber to get there before catching the plane at Cairo airport for 6 a.m. So she goes, if I were you, I'd pack up all your stuff and go. And she goes, the exact amount of days you have to stay in England, I have 3 days for you to stay there. And it was amazing because, Patricia had told me something very similar would happen.
Right.
And she said, this is important that you go there. And this was on the perfect amount of days until the 21st. And I would be leaving out on that the eve and going into that 22nd, just when London was locked down on 3/22. So I was so lucky because at that point, Boris Johnson was saying, I don't know if you remember this, he said he believed in herd immunity and he didn't want to lock anything down. So everyone was still going to pubs. It was great. You could still go to the pub, get a pub pie, have some beers, whatever you wanted. It was a little bit more empty out there. The most empty I've ever seen London ever in my visits. It was so crazy. But, for some strange reason, I was able to get there and I was guided the whole time. And that's where this really interesting next part of what I saw took place. So I get out and I rush to get to that airport. I'm rushing to the Cairo airport. My Uber gets pulled over because he had some kind of illegal thing in his window, like a tinted window screen. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to make it there. Because for people that have traveled to Egypt, Jimmy, it's crazy in the Cairo airport. It's all brand new now, but they have like 10 security checkpoints that all do the same thing. It's total redundancy. You had a security checkpoint at the door. You have to take everything out, take your watch off, your shoes off, your bags, and then they got another one a few feet away, then another one past this. So it keeps going, and you're thinking, am I going to actually catch this flight? I catch the flight. I get over to England. Things are great. But I have a friend out there. And, as I mentioned, Colin, who's a good friend, I have a doctor friend of mine over there who's a very, very interesting fellow. And his name is Harry Challenger. Have you ever heard of the Flying Saucer Review?
Of course.
Yeah, so what's crazy about him is that he's like a mad scientist genius when it comes to UFOs, Jimmy. He inherited the FSR library and editing duties, which is such a distinguished publication. As your listeners know, Gordon Crichton started the thing. He's the original ufologist, going back to 1941, right?
Well, okay, so to be clear here, I want everybody to understand, you had a supernatural entity travel agent at 3 a.m., right?
Yeah.
Tell you to book a flight, you snap to attention at that point, and I think everybody should. That's a pretty interesting. Now, and the other part to this is the Patricia angle. We can't dismiss this because you were already told. This is almost precog.
Yeah, she's very, very good, and actually, the crazy part about it is that she became like an extra set of eyes on this trip. Like having her into this next part of the trip made this trip feel so supernatural to me. It became this really strange, apocalyptic, esoteric adventure. Like there was a mission all of a sudden. I felt something interesting was about to happen to me. And I got to say that of all the trips I've taken, all the adventures in strange places, I've never had so many interactions like this. In fact, I even thought, should I even talk about this? Should I even come on here with you and talk about it? I was thinking people are going to, the armchair cynical critics out there that absolutely have zero tolerance for the unexplainable. I'm like, they're going to just crucify me to a Skeptoid.com article for even sharing this. But I know the Fadernauts have had experiences like these, right?
Well, see, and this is the thing, Johnny, coming from you, it almost scares the crap out of me because this is what you do. You're out there chasing down these experiences, but when it starts to play out, with you and for you day after day after day, you at some point you have to start to pay attention. But this is the other interesting part. Now, and I want to talk about how eerie the airports were, but now you are leaving Egypt and you are heading to the UK. You don't know what's happening, but you've been told that something will. And when you get the Flying Saucer Review involved into this, this is about to take an interesting turn. What were the airports like traveling internationally? Which are normally packed every day of the week. What was that like?
Well, when you arrive at Heathrow, I mean, I love the UK so much. I love London so much. My beloved British people. I always feel good when I get there, but it was different. They still had an upbeat attitude, but it wasn't as busy as usual. You could tell things were dwindling down. But when I arrived there, luckily, there was still good spirits amongst the Brits. There was still a fighting spirit, and they were trying something different. So it was strange because before this trip, Jimmy, something told me, don't book your flight through Spain, even though it was cheaper. Don't book it through Italy. Mohammed had definitely had that oversight, so we stuck with London. So I'm lucky that I dealt with British Airways throughout that interaction. So going into London, arriving there, I go and hook up with my friend who, again, Harry Challenger, Flying Saucer Review. He is such an interesting guy, Jimmy. When I go to his place, it was like we were on this mission that night, and he's had tons of experiences with contactees. He's been out there with everyone from Stephen Greer to, whoever the contactees that come out to the crop circles out there. When I was in his place, out in the English countryside, he's got Gordon Crichton's original, butterfly collections and all these brilliant little British things and botany things. It was fascinating. But really captured me as he said, we're going out to some really serious places tonight. I'm going to take you. And he goes, I have to get you ready first. And I said, what do you mean? In his nearby garage and whatnot, he had built a Tesla coil, Jimmy. He had built a Tesla coil with mercury and energy, and he says, we have to charge you up first using the sequence of 369. He said that is the pattern we have to do because we're going to go to some places that are highly energetic. And he knew exactly what I meant when I told him that Patricia had described a place that we were supposed to go to. He said, that's the place I'm going to bring you. He said, it's exactly the place I'm going to bring you. He goes, there's two places I'm going to bring you tonight. So he said, let's charge up. He says, bundle up. You're going to need to bundle up really well. He says, I'm going to take you out to West Sussex. We're going to drive out there tonight, and we're going to be up till about 4 or 5 in the morning. So we, get some hot beverages and bundle up and go out there. And as we're driving, we just felt this momentum. Patricia comes on the phone and she says, keep me on the phone. She tells us, keep me on speakerphone. But Patricia tells me, she says, when you get to the site, she goes, your phone is going to drain batteries. Both of your phones are going to go down into nothing. She goes, what's your battery like right now? I have a new Samsung S10 and my battery was about 80-90%. It was still a full battery. She was just barely on speakerphone. We arrive at the site. She goes, the site that you're going to go to, she goes, it has the name King in it, doesn't it? And she goes, it has ley lines. And he goes, yes, the site that we're going to is called King Lay Vale. In the picture you posted on Twitter, Jimmy, you see my friend Harry Challenger. He's standing in front of that sign. The address on the background says King Lay Vale.
Yes,
the
it
ley
does.
is for the ley lines, and this is the veil from both worlds. And she said there's a connection between there and the King's Chamber.
Now, let's stop right there for a second, Johnny, for the audience. If everybody goes to set 3 of the pictures, there are 4 that I posted up in Twitter. There are 4 images here. One of London. You can see the double-decker bus. What part of London is this?
That with the I'm not looking at that part that you're looking at is right down by Trafalgar Square. That is usually packed with people.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, absolutely. So that's image 1. Image 2. Well, let's go in order. Here's the gate going into Kingley.
That's right. And Patricia could see that too. When we were on the phone with her, we walk up there, she's on the phone. She goes, there's a gate there with you right now. And she literally was able to describe, energies there, where the trees were, where the gate was. It was literally like her eyes were there ahead of time. She was guiding us where to go. And she said, it's very, very important what you're carrying with you that was given you from Egypt. She goes, you're being led to a particular spot there.
Now, picture number 3 is you and Peter freezing.
Harry Challenger.
Or Harry, freezing your balls off in the middle of the night. You can tell. You've got your, excuse my French, everybody, but we have to accurately describe what is going on. You guys look absolutely frozen. So that's picture 3. And then picture 4 is what you were just referencing. There's Harry standing in front of the sign, which says Road to Kingley Vale and Kingley Vale, Walterden Down. Very cool that she called that. She had no idea. And what did you think when you looked at the sign?
Jimmy, I had this deja vu feeling. It was so weird. It was so strange. I was like, what the hell is going on? I don't consider myself very important in the world of, big experiences happening. I'm just a book nerd. I look at this stuff and I think it's really cool. I put these pieces together, but here this thing is happening to myself and I'm like, is this really happening? I'm like, what is going on? This is so strange. I'm like, I'm just going to go with it. It's one of the coolest, strangest, frightening trips ever. It's the apocalypse in my mind. Let's go for it.
So you guys go through the gate. Now, what ends up happening, we can actually save that for after the break. We can actually do a pretty cool setup here because you don't know what is about to happen. You've certainly been warned about it now multiple times on this trip that this was going to be a very special night. Yes. How far of a walk was it for you guys after you parked the car?
I would say about a good about 10 minutes at this first spot. This was a 10-minute walk, and the spot where we were walking, you feel it's like one of those ancient enchanted forests that this is where the Saxon kings would go. There was initiations and burials of them. It was an initiation place, just like a king's chamber. This is England's version. It's where there's major ley lines coming into this place. It was powerful, Jimmy. You could feel there was entities in there lurking around. It's almost like you're being watched by 1,000 eyes at every angle, if you know what I mean.
Now, what happened with the battery?
Totally drained. My battery went from 80% on speakerphone, new phone, by the way, and this should not do this. It went from 80% down to red and just died. Boom. Just like she said. She said it is the energy. It's sucking it out of your phone as you're walking. So we go over to Harry's phone. He's got the iPhone 9 or whatever it was a fairly new iPhone. He's got that out. And he's got it's a white phone. It's on speakerphone. Even his battery, which was pretty good, starts to go down. We had just enough battery that Patricia's on there. She goes, you have to hurry. She said, this is important. She goes, I don't care about where you're going in the next site. The next site, you're going to see something, but she goes, I'm not concerned with this. I'm only concerned with this site. This is what I'm told I have to help you with. She goes, you must hurry. She goes, get to the center of this one stone circle. And she goes, Harry must stand on the outside and you must walk up towards it. Now, are we going to a break or should I continue on?
No, continue. I want to save, I want you to set the, what is going on, because what happens next is pretty mind-blowing, and I don't even have all of the details. So I want to save that for after the break. We have about 4 minutes.
Okay, so the second site, by the way, that we'll get to after this site, that's where I had this mind-blowing experience on top of this one. So we can shift into both of those. But as I was coming down this path, you could feel this magnetism just pulling you into the dark shadows of this forest where it felt like all these eyes were watching you almost as if you were being touched. And Patricia was saying that. She said, there's a lot of beings there that are watching you. She says, I can feel them. I can see them. They're trying to distract you and pull you away. She goes, but you have something with you that you need to carry to this spot. And when I walked up to this spot, we knew it right away. There was a magnetism there. There was this emanation of a feeling like, oh my God, it's like when you go up into the Great Pyramid or Stonehenge or one of those places. It just had that feeling, and that's when she said to me, she said, tell Harry to stand outside of the circle. She goes, I want you to lay down in the circle. She goes, you have to hurry because your phone is going to run out of battery. She goes, it's going to be drained any second now. She goes, lay down in the circle. And she goes, place the phone on your chest or nearby. She goes, so I can tell you what to do next.
Now, what was it that you were carrying?
She said that when I was in Egypt, I had to be gifted these light codes from a pillar of light. And it's interesting that even last year when we visited Egypt, there was a drawing that was taken, a prediction, or people that had seen nearby. There was a pillars of light or beings of light there that were seen around these pyramids. So I don't know if that was the thing that was supposed to come to me, but she said that these light codes were injected into my energy and I was carrying them like a backpack. And she said the only way that this was going to become activated, or what they were the purpose for them, was that I needed to deposit that into the ley line. She goes, it had to be sucked through you into that ground area, and then something was going to be opened up for me to see about where we are going in the future. And I didn't know what was going to happen. But
are you buying into this, Johnny, or are you just like, okay, whatever, and let's see what's going to happen?
Jimmy, I was still very pragmatic about it. I was like, well, this is cool. I've seen some things like this, but I didn't know what to expect. I was like, exactly. Okay, maybe I'm just going to go there and, it will be a nice relaxation, a nice country walk out in the middle of the night. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, you can't go into this with high hopes and expectations of, something earth-changing because, well, first off, it's not going to happen, right? And if you know what I mean. And then the second part is you don't want to be let down. So
totally. That's how I feel about these things. Don't raise the bar on your expectations. And so you could say that, when I laid down into this spot, she said, okay, I want you to breathe now. And she goes, now I'm going to let you go. And she goes, just allow it to happen. As she did that to me, that's when something started to unfold, that I felt the same sort of sensation I felt in the Great Pyramid. But at that point, there was this incredible picture that filled up that I was given, where that being had appeared to me. And again, I started to get that communication. And I was shown, Jimmy, the only way I can describe this. Now, what I was shown, this part of this site was internal. The thing that we're about to explore in the next site was external. But in this particular site, the vision I saw was a future that was I'd say about 25 years from now, or about 2045, 2050. I saw an extremely futuristic city, a beautiful Earth. I saw very, very advanced people. And I was told at that moment, your generation of what you guys are going through now, you will arrive at a future that will far surpass the Atlanteans. It will far surpass the Egyptians. You're being led to this, and there is a message of hope. There is a message for the future that we must stay positive. We must match our optimism with what is right and what is proper, but we will get there. And that was the message I was told. And Patricia said that at that moment, what she saw is that some of these codes were brought down from me. She said this, not me. She said they were anchored into the ley line. And she says, when you get home, you're going to have so much to write and so much that's going to be downloaded to you that about where we're going and how this is not the end, that this is a part of a change and a cycle of transformation. And so that's what was really imbued with me, that all that worry and concern, everything that was on the news went out the window at that moment, that I knew that we have hope for our future and where we're going. So that, Jimmy, that was the end of Patricia's call that night. She said, okay, I'm done with you guys now. Your phones are dead. She goes, you guys go on to the second half of your adventure that was Harry-led instead of her leading it. And she goes, I know you guys are going to have a great experience there, but it's not my duty to lead you into that one, she said.
There you go. This is Fade to Black. Our guest is Jonny Enoch. When we come back after this short break, we're going to go to site number 2. What happens next is absolutely extraordinary, as if everything wasn't already pretty cool. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back after this short break.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Jonny Enoch. Talking about his recent trip to Egypt and then to the United Kingdom. We are now in Kingley. All right. Now, picking up where we left off, Jonny was told to lay down in the middle of this circle, put his phone on his chest where she could tell him what was about to go down. He got a download. And then Patricia says, okay, my part of your journey has now ended. I'm signing off. And you're going to be out of battery any second now. So have a nice trip, Jonny. And she signs off and hands things over to you. Now you move to a second site with Harry. How far away was this second site?
Oh, about 20 minutes, I believe. And it was 20, 25, 30 minutes. We go out of there, and it was out in the countryside, Jimmy. That was the great thing about it. It was these areas, these little English countryside areas have the beautiful old houses and the streams and the nature. It's just gorgeous. It's a beautiful night out. Picture this, just crisp, clean air. The stars are out. It's very magical. You're in Harry Potter land.
Right.
It's just everything is just, the roads are empty because, I mean, again, this is the getting near the apocalypse there. So
right.
We're driving out there, and he takes me to this site, and he says, this is a very important site that is a secret site where a lot of the contactees that he had worked with had these incredible experiences. And he said, I feel like I'm supposed to bring you here. He said, this is important. So we go there and we trek our way out to this spot. And again, we're in the darkness. We got all these layers, 3 or 4 layers of clothes on. It's cold, but we grab these blankets from his trunk and he says, we're going to need these. We got our flashlights out. We make our way out into this area near a field, and this is also a very ancient place that was known to the Druids, and all kinds of multi-dimensional strange things happen in this spot that we go to. We go into the middle of a field in the middle of the night, and he says, okay, this is the spot. He lays out in one area, and I lay out in another area. We're out there, and he said, okay, he goes, this is what you got to do. He goes, I want you to start talking about things. Just talk about things that you want to do. Set the intention about what it is that you work on. He goes, I've done this many times. He says, talk about what we're here for, the work that you do, what it's about. He goes, they can hear you. And Jimmy, I know you've been out there with Dr. Greer. You've done the CE5 stuff. You've had the green laser, right?
I have done that, yes.
I have too. And to be honest with you, I've been to these places many times where people are in groups, and I've seen the little blips in the sky. I've seen satellite kind of movement things where people say, hey, that one moved or that jolted over there. I've seen that stuff before, but I didn't know what I was about to see. I was not expecting what I was about to see. It was shocking, Jimmy, shocking. I'm out there and he says, we're going to go use the torch, which is a flashlight over there. And he's like, let's shine it up in the sky. He goes, I used the 369 pattern. This wasn't a green laser. It wasn't even a red laser. This was just a regular flashlight. He just holds it up to the sky, does the 369 pattern. He says they like that sort of thing. That's how they communicate. He goes, I've done this many times. All of a sudden, Jimmy, I'm just kind of sitting there, and I don't know how in the hell to describe this. The whole sky above us envelops. All of a sudden, it was just like a cloaking device was removed off of some gigantic structure, like a mothership, and it was massive above us, like a football field size thing that whatever it was pulsating. The bottom of it, the best way I can describe it was like this translucent, shiny, silvery kind of material that was pulsating down at us about 6 times, and it was like it was powering up. And I just thought, what in the hell is that? I was just shocked, Jimmy. I was breathless. I had no words because I've seen things like little things in the sky. I was expecting to see like some little satellite thing moving or something if we were lucky. And he goes, and he just very nonchalantly says to me, he goes, oh yeah, there they are. I'm like, there they are? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, how are you not freaking out right now? Like, this thing was massive. It was just right above our heads.
Right. How are you not freaking out right now? That's a great way to put it. Now, is this at 12 o'clock, like straight above you?
This 12 o'clock straight above us. This is 4 a.m. out in the middle of a field in the countryside where he said this is a hotbed for activity. And he said they're listening, they're watching. Right. This is where his contactees go to have their meetings over the years. And he said the giant ships and all that come through. And he says, well, they heard us because he said he told me it was important that we had a conversation beforehand about who I was, what we were doing out there, and our intentions and the work we do, because he said they listened to that sort of thing. And he said this was them acknowledging that we were there. And, of course, I had no phone because our phones were dead, so it's not like I could reach up. And it was only for about a minute, Jimmy, we were able to see this. So after it did this, I'm in a state of shock, psychic shock. I'm like, oh my God, I thought the last stuff was interesting. This blew my mind. And then I said, well, maybe we can make them come back again. So we did a meditation. We did a meditation for like 10 minutes. We set an intention. We had another conversation, but nothing showed up. Nada, zilch. Just that one recognition that they were there, like they were powering up this ship, that we were allowed to see it. And it was the colors that I saw, it was like plasma. it was so incredibly large and amazing that I couldn't even sleep that night. It was just so shocking.
Yeah, I've had nearly the same experience where we've gone out there, with a group of people, and we see something amazing at the beginning of the night, and then nothing. Now, yeah. I've had, like the most extraordinary thing you could ever see, right in the front of everything, and then crickets. So I've had that happen. But then I've had other nights where it's just been Steven Spielberg, just crazy town, for hours on end, where I've had experiences, and I'm so glad that I've had these with friends because we can laugh about this now. I've had nights where I got tired of seeing stuff. Right? I mean, I'm just walking around.
And the great thing is you had friends there, so you didn't think you're going crazy, right?
Man, I had a night, and I'm not kidding about this, and I know that they're probably listening, Frankie and Susie, right now. Frankie and Susie went and made a pastrami sandwich for me and a bag of Doritos. Right? And I think they even brought me a Dr. Pepper, right? It's perfect. massive pastrami sandwich. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting in a lawn chair, literally eating a pastrami with Doritos and a Dr. Pepper, looking up at the sky at craziness. And I'm just eating a sandwich. Now, in a normal day, I'd be losing my mind, like you just said, right? How can you not be freaking out right now? I'm just looking up and enjoying it because we had been doing it for a few hours, and that's, I enjoy that. Then there's the other nights where, like I said, something extraordinary happens and then it just dies down after that. But I know that there is a conscious connection, yes. like for you there. When you get a wink from an extraordinary craft, saying hello, that's probably more important than seeing a fleet of ships fly by for the next 3 hours, which is cool in of itself. But it's the timing of it. You guys just arrived. Harry does the torch signal, and you get an immediate response of something that was giant in the sky. And that's very important. Can you describe the ship for us one more time? In your excitement, you kind of went past it. You described it.
What I saw, it was just a very large, massive structure, and below it, it was like what was coming out of it, Jimmy, became so bright that what was above it was obscured. It was like it's this. You ever see, like when your faucet drips that's coming out of the kitchen sink and it's like dripping a drop of water that's coming out of that? Well, picture that like a plasmic light version of that was coming out of the entire sky, massive above us, that was pulsating. It pulsated down 6 times right above us. And I was just like, what in the hell is that? That was... It like all of a sudden went from being nothing in the sky but stars, with this thing just shows up like it was almost like a cloaking device was removed. And as it was pulsing, it was coming down towards us like it was breathing up and down. And it did that 6 times. And it was like coming down, and it was just like this strange, fluidic, multi-dimensional, shiny, strange, silvery, liquidy stuff that was coming down. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's just them powering up. He goes, that's them. And it was just, he was so calm about it and nonchalant. And he goes, there they are.
Well, and when you describe it as the size of a football field, what was its shape? Did you have any indication of what you were looking at?
I know the bottom part was circular. Whatever was I don't know if that's the engine or whatever, not the engine, but the bottom part, that the plasmic area that was powering up, that was circuitous, the bottom part. But the top part that I couldn't make out as clearly because it was so large above us, and it was the circle that was really filling up below it, may have been more rectangular. But it was massive, whatever it was, and there was this circuitous thing underneath it that was pulsating. That is what shocked me to the core. Like, it was unbelievable. And it's interesting because I had come out to talk to him about forming a new group. I was there, to talk to him about forming a group with our friend JP Hag, who's a lawyer out there. We were going to form a group that's kind of based on disclosure, with space law and philosophy, and talking about, bridging humanity with extraterrestrials and diplomatic relations. And we've been talking to people in different areas about putting this together. So he said that this was them sort of giving us a sign that perhaps this was their approval. By showing up, this was them saying, okay, this group you guys are starting, Triumvirate, this is a good idea. We approve of it, and you can move forward. But whatever it was, Jimmy, like you said, if you get one big ship, it's almost more of a nod than even a bunch of little ships.
Now, what happened next?
What happened next is, so that came through, and I guess you could say that, the night peacefully folded up. I couldn't sleep. I mean, this thing was just filled me full of adrenaline. I was just unbelievably excited after that. I get back to my hotel room in London, about 6 a.m. or so. And this was on the eve of the quarantine. And so the next morning, I'm flying out of there in midday. I'm flying out just when they're locking London down. It started to get spooky because remember, when I was there, the world, North America was starting to lock up, but London was still having a good time. And then when I was leaving, they really started to lock up. I mean, the streets were like ghost towns, even more so. And the airport was locking down. I get in just barely in the nick of time. I come back when, into Canada. And like Patricia had predicted, just streams and stuff came to me that I've been writing about and placing about, where I feel this sort of transformation that we're going through. But the whole experience was amazing, and I'm so glad that I went, Jimmy, because if I'd listened to all the fear and the worry out there, I wouldn't have taken that chance. And I think sometimes the greatest things happen to us with the universe when we take that chance and we just trust our highest excitement.
Now, I want to back up really quick before we're going to go into overtime, everybody. Don't worry about that. And I'm going to visit this object in the sky after the break. I want to go back to Egypt for a second before the break. When you were going through the tour and visiting, these magical spots and these temples and things, were there moments during that tour that were possible signals of this extraordinary week that you're about to go through? Did you have some spiritual moments around Egypt?
Yeah, most certainly, Jimmy. Like, I just kept feeling that we were being led in one place to the next. Like, we had little doors open for us, even the places that we got to visit and go to, even around Saqqara, that normally people, might have issues there because there's a lot of people, trails. This was a very strange trip because it's not the usual vibe that you have when you're kind of on a tour. On the tour, it's, we're teaching people, we're seeing things and exploring. There was a constant feeling that the clock was ticking, Jimmy. It was like, every news story that was coming out was getting progressively more pressing, that, time was of the essence, the clock was ticking. But even though that was happening, we were still getting these amazing, miraculous doors opening for us, one place after the other. Or even in the Great Pyramid, the guard just happened to turn away for such a period of time so that it was possible to enter that state peacefully. So, yeah, I believe it was guided the whole time, actually.
Now, and the thing is, because this was a pretty extraordinary week for you, one that you're not going to forget for a long time, and I'm sure you're still processing a lot of this information, and I know that you're writing it down. But when you go through something like this, were you feeling anxious? Could you tell that things were building up and that something was about to happen? And the reason why I ask is because when this happens to you again, you'll see the signs. You'll know the feeling, right?
That's right. And, Jimmy, I'm so happy I went through it, because when I got back, the world was in meltdown about this thing, and we've been watching the news. But what I was shown, and I can still see it in my mind of who we are in the future, where we're going. It's so exciting. And I saw the connection to Egypt. I saw that all of our history has made us who we are, and all these pieces of what you and the Fadernauts look at that we are all excited about. It's not just some esoteric information or just random knowledge or symbols or hieroglyphics or pyramid. This is a part of who we are, why we came here. And our past is creating our future. And this future, which are these dimensions of reality and space that are in constant movement, we're moving towards it in a very exciting way. And I think that's why we have to keep doing shows like this, keep looking at these mysteries, because they will unlock the doors that we need to walk through.
Now, you just mentioned, I don't want this to get away from us. You just mentioned that it has been part of religion in ancient Egypt, what we are going through now. When you say that, what are you referring to?
Well, I mean, Muhammad Ibrahim, he's a master teacher in Egyptology. I'd love for you to have him on sometime. We've had him on the show. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. When he breaks it down, he said to me for a while, Johnny, he said, we have been expecting this, the Kepher, the cycle, the scarab, the unfolding, the shifting. This is the cleansing of all the old patterns of energy, and we're moving towards a very powerful transformation of humanity and where we're going. And I just don't feel like we need to be in fear and get too stuck up on looking at the surroundings too much. We can't take our eye off the prize. And Jimmy, I got to hand it to you, man. I love the turnaround. You did this a few weeks ago before everyone else was. You kept moving past all the fear porn and the negativity, and you kept it positive and said, let's go back to the mysteries. Let's look at what the mysteries are saying. What are the extraterrestrials saying? Where are we going? And that shift, that positivity, that looking into these different realities, honestly, I think that's the direction we move into, you know?
Well, and look, I'm just like everybody else. I'm no different. I have to go out and shop. I have to go out and do things. I have to take care of my family. But to do any of that today, you've got to wear face masks and gloves and things. And I have pictures of all of that. And I thought that the experience was really interesting. You mentioned Costco earlier, and I've taken pictures at different markets and what is going on, including Costco. And I thought to myself, none of that has been posted. I don't want people to constantly be reminded of this. And I just pulled back, and a lot of that was Rita. Because I thought it was funny and fun at the same time, right? Going through the experience. And Rita was like, no, you're not going to post any of that stuff. We're not going to be part of that. and you know what? She's right. And we just made that decision very early on not to be a part of it. Look, if you want to be a part of it and you want that experience, there's a lot of it out there. You can go to any news outlet, not any, but a lot of radio shows out there and things that are covering this. And if I hear one more time on the radio, go to our coronavirus podcast for your latest, you know what? But it's out there, it's out there for everybody to go. We just didn't want to do that. In the future, a year from now, I've got all these pictures and I'll post them, and we can look back with a historical perspective on it. But right now, here in the present, Nah, we just don't want to do it. I know that the future is bright. It's going to be amazing, and we are going to get there. And that is the message. That is the message.
It is. Our future is bright, and it's in it. Our destiny is in the stars. With that being said, if we're at the top of the hour, we're coming to the end of the show. I was going to say there was at first some news that was kind of bumming me out. We know when we heard Contact in the Desert was canceled.
Right.
Some of the big conferences were canceled. Yeah, Disclosure Fest, that's even been pushed back, you were saying. But in the meantime, is it all right if I give a plug to a conference that we decided to think outside the box? Some of us out there were asked to come out there, like Billy Carson, and I was asked to come out for a couple of things. Some of the conferences now, Jimmy, have moved online. Have you seen that?
I have. Go ahead, plug away.
Yeah, no, there's a conference that it's an online conference. It's very cheap to check it out. Like I said, Billy Carson's going to be talking. I'm talking there. It's the Forbidden Knowledge Conference from May 28th onwards. It's 4 days long. I'll be talking about the secrets of the Sphinx and the different mysteries of the Sphinxes out there. But that's the great thing that I think in the meantime, some people became very innovative and they put some stuff out there. But Jimmy, do you know what kind of also bums me out? Is that every year, Jordan Maxwell and I, we have a tradition where we go on a road trip, or we love hanging around L.A. and going out for dinner to places. And I always go to Disneyland. I'm a huge Disney fan. And one of these times you should come out with us to Musso Frank's or come out for dinner. We always have our tradition out there. And this year, it's kind of bumming me out that I was looking to see if Disney was going to open. And I even asked Patricia, I said, can you remote view Disneyland for me and see what it's going to be like? And she goes, no, you don't want to go there this year. She goes, wait, because she goes, when it does open the door, it's going to be a little bit challenging at first. You'll be distancing and all that. She goes, just enjoy the nature, go out and have a good time with that. But things will go back to normal eventually. But, people are moving out of all that crap and they're clearing their heads. And I love that we're having conversations like this.
I can imagine walking around Disneyland with Jordan Maxwell with all of the symbolism. what kind of tour that would be.
You got it. Let's do it, man. Let's do the Jordan Maxwell Disney visit. Are you in?
Yeah, of course I'm in. I'll do that. I'm trying to think of the last restaurant Jordan and I ate at. We ate at an Italian place in the Valley. And it was just so fun. Look, Italian food, when it's done right, is magical. But when you're going to one of Jordan's favorite places to go and eat Italian food, it's spot on the money. And there's another thing about Jordan. When you're riding around the Valley, he knows every road, every curb, every alley, every stop sign, everything, and I thought I knew that. I've been in the Valley for 40 years, right? Jordan is crazy. So anyway, it was.
You're totally right. When you're driving around with him, especially through the San Fernando Valley, or you go up to Mulholland Drive, and those areas, he goes, oh, this is where the Nazis were funded by the Austrians that were there. This was MK Ultra was there. This is where that is. But his favorite Italian restaurant, which is my absolute favorite restaurant out there, if you've never been to it, it's in Burbank. And it's a place, it's so cheap to eat there. And it's the best Italian food I've ever eaten in my life. It's called Pinocchio's. Or Monte Carlo's. You ever eaten to that place?
Yeah, I ate there with him. And,
God, it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. But yeah, you're right about that. Jordan's knowledge of the Valley and the symbolism that is here. I heard about all of this going back. I've talked to him about it, going back to 1985. And somebody gave me some video cassettes of Jordan, literally, man, I wonder if he's even got copies of this at a public library, right?
Oh, wow.
And somebody had, I was like, oh my God, this is just insane. So anyway, let's take a break right here, and we'll come back. We'll go into some overtime with Jonny Enoch, because we've got to go back to the United Kingdom. Don't think I've let that go. We will do that and more on that when we come back after the break. Our guest tonight, Jonny Enoch. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio, and you can follow Jonny, that's Jonny Enoch, at Twitter. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Our guest tonight, Jonny Enoch. And we covered Johnny's trip over to Egypt and what happened there. And he then had to stop over in the United Kingdom in London for a few days before heading back to the west coast of Canada. And while he was there, he was taken by his friend Harry, Flying Saucer Review, to a location that they had a sighting. Now, I'm recapping just a little bit, but there was something that you mentioned there, Jonny, and I think everybody needs an explanation, and I want to get back to the ship in just a second. But you said Harry used the 369 method with his torch. What was that?
Well, you know, that's sort of what Nikola Tesla said were the keys to the universe. You know, you can, whether you break it down over into the pyramid and other areas, this combination of numbers, Harry tells me, opens up these sort of multi-dimensional doors. Now, it's when you're in the world of Harry, it's a very interesting world, Jimmy. Like, just to give you an example, he was mentored by Gordon Crichton, Mr. MI6, who literally took Harry under his wing. So Harry was involved in all kinds of strange little experiments and things that he plays with in the multidimensional world. So, for example, there's a really interesting case that Gordon Crichton had shown in FSR about something called the polariscope. And this is just a little combination of what I'm talking about with the 369 that we were mentioning, is that the polariscope was this strange device that this doorman in the 1950s, I think it was, he took these military-grade liquid crystal displays, and he believed if you held them at certain angles, which, you know, we look at like the spin of atoms and we look at angular momentum, or we look at light fractals, that this guy believed that this drew multidimensional beings into a room, into the proximity of where you are. So Harry has experimented before with the light patterns of using 369 in other areas. Like, he is like doing this stuff as a calling card, and it's like CE5 on steroids. So when you're out with him using these numbers, he's very aware of mathematical combinations in light and communication. So whatever he's doing, man, it works, and it blew my mind. So I think he's tapped into something.
Well, okay, so what is it? Is he flashing at 3 and then flashing at 6 and then flashing at 9 rapidly?
Yes, and before we left his house, he has you can't make this stuff up. He has a replica of a Tesla tower that he has meticulously built it, and he takes the Tesla tower and he uses the 369. It kind of gives you a bit of radiation, I guess. I've seen the Tesla towers when I've been over in Serbia and Belgrade. I went over and I was doing a research piece on the secret hidden technologies of Nikola Tesla. When you're in the Tesla Museum, you go into the Serbian area. Everybody in the room at the Tesla Museum holds a fluorescent light bulb in their hand, and the light lights up when they light the Tesla tower. Well, you kind of feel like that. There's Harry charging us up with a Tesla coil, and it's like zap, 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 and he's using the 369. He goes, there you go, you got a good charge. But it seemed to have given us some sort of a electromagnetic boost, I guess.
And how much time transpired between that with the torch and what happened in the sky?
Oh, man, I'd say hours, maybe 3-4 hours. So I don't know if it gave us something in our charge, because remember the Patricia-led thing that went up into the King Lay Vale. We were up in that area for about an hour or two, and there was some driving that had to go between all these different places. So it was a few hours, but he was using the torch in the sky to do 369. So I would say, if any of the listeners, if the Fader-nauts out there go out to your field and you like to use the green laser, or you like to do one of these things, try the 369 pattern. But here's another admonishment. There's a dear friend of mine that I can't say his name on the air, but he's a wonderful person that I think he's an amazing spiritual soul. And he was out doing the green laser thing. And he was just telling me about this morning, actually. He called me up. And he was saying that this was many, many years ago. You might have heard this story before, Jimmy, but he was out many years ago, and he was in a big city, and he noticed that there was a UFO. There was a craft in the sky. He was taking the laser. He had a green laser pointer, and he was shining it up there. It was a very powerful one, and he could see where it was touching the edges of the craft, where it was literally bouncing off the side of it. And when he was doing this, he didn't think anything of it, but a few days later, he has this experience that lasts for something like 6 hours straight, where he's in this strange state, and these beings take him up and they have a talk with him, and they say, why did you attack us? Why did you attack our craft so violently, days ago with a laser? And they were very aware of whatever he had done, and they said, it was a benevolent contact that he had with him, but they said, we never would have known about you and if you didn't attack our craft. So I guess we got to be aware of where we're shining these lasers at, what we're hitting up there,
Well, I had the infamous, whatever you want to call it, the green chrome balls sighting. And when that was going down and I was watching it through the night vision, which were magnified, I think like 2x. So I'm looking at the craft through the night vision enlarged. And I could see there was probably 3 or 4 lasers that were pointing at the craft. but I'm following it with the night vision and describing to everybody what I am seeing. But it was so far away, it was at that point it was probably 3 or 4 miles away, moving away from us, but it was low to the ground. The lasers occasionally would bounce off of the craft, and the craft itself, I could see that it was solid. It wasn't, like a glowing green light. And by the way, I'm looking at it in night vision, which is green, but to the naked eye, when everybody was watching it, including myself, without the night vision, it was green. Okay, it was already green. So I'm looking at green plus green in the night vision. And it's very difficult to explain, but when the lasers would bounce off of the craft, they would sparkle. Wow. Right? And so I could see the laser's effect on the craft. And I could already see that it was chrome. So when the lasers remember, it's so far away that the chances of these lasers, coming in contact with the craft is actually, it's rare because it's so far away and things. The odds of it hitting it. But when they would randomly cross the craft, they would sparkle. And It was almost like so hard to explain because you're looking at the sparkle in night vision too as well. So you don't know actually what is going on. You're looking at the artifacts of the pickup and the tube of the night vision and what it is seeing. So it's seeing the light diffracted off of the surface, which to me is it looks like sparkles. That's the only way, not like explosions, but kind of like welding. Kind of like that. That's the best way that, like metallic, bright things were coming off of the craft. But it was the light that I was seeing. It wasn't like there were metal pieces or something like that. I don't think that's what it was. But I saw it multiple times, and I was fascinated with that. I didn't expect it. I'd never seen anything like that before. Not only the green chrome ball, but what a laser like that, a military-grade laser, does when it hits a metallic surface through night vision. It was
absolutely.
It was pretty incredible.
And Jimmy, since we've gone into overtime and we're talking about crafts, we're talking about lasers, we're talking about things hitting there. Can we just rewind it just a little bit to something you had said? Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the show, you were talking about this news that we have in the Pentagon. People are talking about these pictures that we're seeing. You'd mentioned that what Dr. Greer had told you on, how these pictures have been around for a while, right? Mm-hmm. You'd also basically asked this question, which I've always wondered about. When Dr. Greer did that incredible work with the Disclosure Project, which changed history. I mean, back at the National Press Club in 2001, when he had done that, that was really that shadow that was cast from 9/11 was out there. And here's a massive announcement that comes out. But as interesting as those pictures are, I think that those are like the fast food of disclosure. And one of my favorite ET cases, I think is one of the most profound, interesting cases that is out there that gives us a clue as to why the ETs haven't really come out there and made this big announcement to us yet. And they've been waiting on us. They've been waiting for us to go through sort of our own transformative steps, which I think we're already taking those. Have you ever heard of the case, Jimmy, of Kirshan Elyumjanov? No. Okay, so really quickly, this is a fun one for you to look up, for the Fadernauts to look up. It's Kirshan Elyumjanov. This was back, I want to say, September 18th, 1997. I believe that was the year. If you go back there, he was out on his balcony in Moscow, Russia. Now, what's interesting about this guy, if you look him up, Kirshan Elyumjanov, he was the president of this place called Kalmykia, which is in the southwestern province of Russia. It's like the only Buddhist province in Russia.
Yeah,
and
we've discussed this many times on the show.
Okay, so you know the story about him, but this guy, as you know, super smart guy. He's the FIDE World Championship guy that beat Kasparov, the guy that beat Deep Blue. He saw those ETs that came on his balcony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they came down in that translucent tube, and the beings brought him up on the ship. They said, we invented chess, but they said, the reason we haven't come down to you guys yet, the reason we're not talking to you guys yet, is because not only of how you treat your animals, how you treat each other. You guys are, sometimes you get a little violent and out of control, but it's interesting that we get these little drip drop pieces of fast food disclosure. We got TikTok, we got the Pentagon videos, but again, I think those are fast food compared to when you go out there and you seek these experiences. And you've had these. You've been out there with maybe you started the night with a pastrami sandwich and a Dr. Pepper from Amazing Friends, and you see a mothership or whatever it is. These profound visits that we're getting, they've been with us for a long time. None of this is new. And I think it is exciting, though, that we're talking about it. But the next step is, I think, Jimmy, can I make one more prediction? I think that in the future now, you know the new James Webb telescope?
I do.
James Webb, man, when we start going beyond Hubble, when we start getting the tech to go look at what's out there, we have more powerful telescopes. We're going to be able to see all these quote-unquote Earth-like planets. We're going to see, hey, we got something there. And it wouldn't take much for a guy like Musk. Don't you think a guy like Musk could say, here's the tech that you guys can go explore those places. Now, how far off do you think we are from that, Jimmy?
Well, and it takes me back to your comment earlier, which was how do I say this? The downloads were placed, you were carrying them around like a backpack.
Yeah.
Well, have you started to unpack that backpack?
Yeah, I believe so, Jimmy, and it's coming to me like this. When people get into that fear mode about the state of the world, I have this knowing in me. I feel like it's from that. It's just from the dreams I'm getting to the things I'm getting when I'm doing my writing. I was getting a little caught up in the first little while of decoding the esoteric side of the stuff we've been going through, but much like the direction that the wisdom that Rita had, that beautiful side of her that said that, let's keep this shift moving forward and not, dwell on those things right now. That's sort of the pickup right now that I have too, the direction of moving in. And I feel like there's a knowing that these things and everything that we're going through together, we're an infinite consciousness. That's what the download is to me, that we are an infinite consciousness that comes from places of unimaginable light and power. And really, there's nothing that's going to stop us. We have unlimited potential. And I see it continues to unfold. These downloads continue to unfold for me, I guess, in the way that I look at this work now. And I see it as I see it as kind of a gift with it, if that makes sense.
Now, the visions of the future 25 years from now, I find that very, very interesting because you describe it as, beautiful.
It's beautiful. I definitely see that where we're shifting out, we're going to be very involved in space, coming and going. We're going to have, we know in our future we're going to have things like interactive holograms. We're going to have breakthroughs in our technology and in our health and in our biology. All the classified biology will be removed. Are given to us. I saw this vision of a very futuristic city and of people that were much more harmonious and spiritually advanced. I feel like we're going to take steps, light years forward. And it's like the ancients talked about this. Even Nostradamus, the groups, they called it the Golden Age. In fact, there's a very famous person who's a hero of mine that comes from Los Angeles. Originally, he was Canadian, but he was out in Los Feliz, California. I know you're familiar with him, is Manly P. Hall.
Of course.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Of course.
Manly P. Hall, out of PRS, the Philosophical Research Society, he, I just think, was such a master. He wrote over 150 books, gave over 8,000 extemporaneous lectures, countless articles. His very last talk he did, Jimmy, I think people, if you want something really positive to listen to about where we're going, his very last talk was given at the Scottish Rite Masonic Temple in Los Angeles. It was recorded, and it's on YouTube. You can look it up. And it's his very last talk he had ever done publicly. And he says to everybody, he goes, we are going to come through a period, like Nostradamus said, where he says we will all be tested. He said it's going to be this shift that we're going to go through. He describes perfectly what we're all going through now and this sort of traumatic shift and all the stuff that's happening. And he says, when you get through that, you're going to go into a golden age. And he said, now is the time that you can see that unfolding. And it's just like what Muhammad said. It's just like the Kafir Dawn. It's a beautiful awakening. And I think we're just in a positive sort of shifting, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm almost shocked, even though that may be too mild of a word. But coming into, when I think about December 31st, 2019, and where I was, in fact, I was in Las Vegas with my family and Rita, and the look to 2020, towards 2020, and the excitement of everything that is in front of us for such a special set of numbers. And how quickly things came unglued. I mean, I am blown away by that on so many different levels. It's just not even one specific thing. It's just how quickly it came unglued. And the only way to look at it is that, we've run off the tracks, but the only thing that is in front of us is things getting better. It ain't going to get worse, right? And so we're going to look at this tremendous project of changing things, of making things better because of where we are now, and we know how to do it. It's going to be great, and that's the only way to look at it. There isn't another way to look at it because of what we have to do, and we know what the journey is moving forward. And I'm excited about it. I really am.
I agree with you. I think there's definitely some growing pains, but I'm very excited about it. And I have this peace in me, Jimmy. I have this knowing of where we're going. And honestly, I say this, that is what the role of not only what you're doing, what this show is doing, what the Fadernauts are doing, that is the role of moving forward and keeping that vision and bringing that light out into the world. Because we know even if you have the darkest room out there, you have the darkest room, it just takes one little light, one little candle to burn against the darkness like a beacon. And so that's what we got to do there.
Now, are you surprised? I know that you heard my opening statement, but are you surprised at how the world did not react to the news from the United States Navy and the Pentagon last week? That the media tried to get the story out there, but it just didn't take hold with everybody. Why? Did that surprise you?
It did surprise me, but at the same time, like you said, people I talk to these days, I mean, I guess I'm kind of just like you. I'm surrounded by people that are interested in these things. So it's very rare these days that I get to talk to people that aren't. But even if I do, I do like talking to people who are pragmatic or skeptical. I prefer people be skeptical or pragmatic. But when I talk to them, almost everybody, even the starchest atheists, even Richard Dawkins, for God's sake, I mean, he's been the greatest skeptic, atheistic character there is. And even he's coming out saying that he thinks DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, came from aliens. He said, look at the way it comes together. Everybody's kind of pro-extraterrestrial these days. And so when they see it on the news, they're like, meh, they already have kind of accepted it, that it's here,
Well, if Richard Dawkins comes around to our side of the fence, that he's one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. The end is nigh. The end is nigh. I rather enjoy him being where he is, because he is. You need opposition for a debate. I need Dawkins to stay where he is. If he comes over to this side, what? Neil deGrasse Tyson is next, and then it takes all the fun out of it.
I know, it's like Keith Richards getting sober.
Yeah, no, you can't do that. That is the apocalypse. That is truly the end of days, man. Johnny, thank you so much. What are the dates for the Forbidden Knowledge online conference with Billy Carson?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. That is going to be on May 28th, and again, to get to that, it's going to be fkncon.live. That's LIVE. And if you go there, they're going to have all the information for this Forbidden Knowledge Conference online. There's myself there. There's a few speakers. Of course, Billy's doing his thing, and it's always wonderful to hear him. But with that, I want to thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank the Fadernauts. And I hope that you stay healthy, happy, and have a great summer.
Johnny, what a great conversation. I look forward to the next one. All right, and get down here so you, Jordan, and I can go visit Mickey Mouse. I look forward to that, and some Italian food. Jonny Enoch, thank you so much, Johnny. Oh, I think we just lost Johnny. Are you there?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
There you go, Jonny Enoch. And with that, we just went pole to pole. So you know what I have to do right now? I have to just pretty much get out of here. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night right here, Nick Redfern is going to stop by and discuss his new book, The Rendlesham Forest UFO Conspiracy. And everybody is talking about this book, as they should. Now, the thing is about Rendlesham, it's not only one of my favorite things to talk about in all of ufology, and we've done some amazing shows in the past about it, but it is one of the most documented UFO contact experiences in the history of this planet. And is it UFO? Is it ET? Or was it something else? And that's what Nick's book is about. And, of course, it's going to cause some conversation, some debate, and a little bit of controversy. But that's what Nick Redfern does best. So we will be doing all of that tomorrow night on Fade to Black. Thursday night will be another Fader night with open lines all night long. And with that, I am going to get out of here. I had an amazing time tonight. Thank you, Jonny Enoch. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. The show was produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitola, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2020 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcasted, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with Nick Redfern, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.